pull up a chair. This is Off the Back Porch. Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer is brought to you in part by Country Village Sporting Goods. Everything you need to get in the woods, the water, or to the camp is at Country Village Sporting Goods. Jason Hardy State Farm. Like a good neighbor, Jason Hardy at State Farm is there. And Larry's Pizza in El Dorado, home of the Double Pizza Parade.
20 plus years of bringing you the most important and latest information with local happenings, news, sports, opinions, and probably an attempt at humor. Also brought to you in part by Davis Farms Country Market. For farm to table fresh, it's Davis Farms Country Market. Cook's Body Shop. Chances are it will happen. And when it does, look to Cook's. Murphy Arts District. For the latest information on concerts and events, go to eldomad.com.
Recorded live from Main Street Pizza in historic, beautiful downtown El Dorado, Arkansas. With a history of being the voices you trust. This is Off the Back Porch with Boomer and Sandy. Or Sandy and Boomer. Or two old guys you've known for a long time, whatever. And now your hosts, Troy, Boomer, Barrios, and B.A. Sandy Sanford.
Thank you, Johnny Dean, and welcome to another edition of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And Boomer, we're here at our favorite place, and that is Main Street Pizza.
Did you order something to eat?
I did.
What, are you going to get the Reuben again?
Yes, sir.
You know, I told you, you called a while ago to see if what I wanted something to eat, and I said no.
Well, I just ordered.
Okay.
And so, I mean, we can still order you something.
I may later.
Okay.
Because I really did just eat dinner just a little bit ago.
Yeah,
It's hard to pass up that chicken sandwich that I like.
It is.
You like the Reuben.
I love the Reuben. You know, and that's the thing is, it's like the same thing with a muffaletta. You can go some places and they make a great muffaletta. Some places have no business making a muffaletta.
Well, you know, and
I know you said you don't like olive paste.
That's it. I love the thought of a muffaletta, and if you tell them no olives, they go.
Then you're gonna have a ham sandwich. Yeah, you know, a ham sandwich on a big bun. You know?
Yeah.
But I do. I love a good Reuben, and they make a great Reuben here. And to me, what the difference is, you know, because a real Reuben is on that marbled rye.
Yeah, rye bread.
And if that rye bread is right, that makes all the difference in the world.
Yeah. That's kind of like a po' boy. If you don't have, you know,
if you don't have a good po' boy bun
baked in New Orleans somewhere,
right? Yeah. Well, and again, thank you, Dean, for coming in there and saving me when I couldn't think of the word. But Dean Morrison is our special guest this week, and you may know Dean from Off the Rail and Madhouse 101. And so, thank you for coming and joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us this week. I think it's, you know, you got probably the greatest endorsement a person could get for breakfast food at the Rail when Rex Nelson posted that it's his favorite breakfast place in the entire state of Arkansas. And I'm just telling you, Rex is a foodie. You know, and he has quite a following because of his foodie habits, and that.
So you think that was a pretty good endorsement?
That's a pretty freaking good endorsement to get Rex Nelson to endorse.
I'm gonna tell you what happened.
He's a nice man.
We went to Madhouse 101 for Martha's birthday, and just four of us. Usually we have a whole bunch of people.
But I checked my phone. I didn't.
Yeah, no, I didn't invite you. It was just.
You just didn't.
No, I know it's no.
Oh, okay.
It was. We have a little group.
I invited you to mine.
I didn't come.
I know. You know what? Thank God for Danny and Alice Winchester. They were the only ones of my friends who were there. Everyone else was Casey's friends. Or
you know,
Micah's.
that was at the point where I was somewhat suffering from a back problem, which I've alleviated through drugs and not drugs. I got off all of them. But what I was saying is that they had dueling pianos there the other night.
Yes.
Have you ever seen those guys?
Yes.
You know, we were
saw them in Little Rock.
In downtown Little Rock, we saw them one time, and these guys are, man, they're funny. And they made up a song as
and
they
you got them coming back in June.
Yeah, they come about once a quarter. Yeah.
And so I told Casey, I said, hey, we're going to the one in June. And she asked me, she said, hey, that dueling pianos thing, did you... was it formal? And I'm like, no. And she's like, well, I'm just looking at pictures here, and everybody's wearing like formal attire. Well, ended up they had went from Madhouse and they did a policeman's ball. And so that's what she was seeing pictures of. But,
So what they do is they hand out little forms, put them all over the tables. You write down a song you want and bring it up there and put it in the jar, and that, they'll say, for $50 we'll do that one on top. No, but they had one that says Jehovah Witness stripper, but made up a song about a Jehovah's Witness stripper, and they did it. They made up a song and played it.
Okay, so
I don't know if it was a put up thing.
When you said write down, I'm thinking you write down like, I don't know, Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah, yeah,
something like that.
Yeah,
but
play me something by Billy Joel.
yeah. Play me a song, Piano Man.
Yeah, they did some Billy Joel.
Yeah. And the microphone smells like a beer. Mm-hmm. Man, that's, to me, as far as imagery goes, that's one of the most.
You're having a streaming of thought there, aren't you?
One of the most things that when I hear that song, it's just like I can picture everything about it.
The piano sounds like a carnival.
Yeah. And that one and Don Williams, What Do You Do with Good Old Boys Like Me?
Yeah.
Very, very.
His friends.
It just draws the images in your mind.
His friends, Jack and Jim. No, it wasn't Jack and Jim.
No.
It was two whiskeys, though. Anyway.
I don't remember that part of the song, but, I just know he said, I grew up with a kid down the street. I watched him burn himself out on bourbon and speed.
Yeah.
But I was smarter than most, and I could choose. I learned to talk like the man on the 6 o'clock news.
6 o'clock news.
And and of course he talks about the smell of jasmine coming through the window screen at night, and his daddy being a little bit of gin drunk and coming in and kiss him on the forehead before he
smell like gin.
Before he goes to bed. It's such great imagery. But before we started the podcast today, we were all having these minor discussions about a certain internet provider who also happens to provide paid television services.
Yeah.
And that would be Optimum.
Yeah.
And I canceled mine a couple of years ago when I had internet only. That's it, internet only. Now, as many kids as I have in my house, and as much as they love to stream Netflix and Hulu and whatever else, we had to have that top tier amount,
a gig at least,
unlimited, whatever. But my internet bill was $249 a month. And I'm like, something's
That's all you had?
All I had, just internet.
And that was 2 years ago?
Yes. And I said, something's got to give here. And so I start shopping around. And at that time, I found AT&T had it wasn't U-verse, but it was a high-speed internet, although it wasn't that fast. But it was high-speed internet for $50 a month. Mm-hmm. $50 a month. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, you know what? I can give it a try. And so I called Optimum to cancel it. And the guy I spoke with was like, well, why are you canceling? I said, because it's $250 a month. And
well, I can give it to you for $50.
He said, I told him, I said, I've got a deal at $50. He said, I don't believe that. And I'm like,
doesn't matter.
Okay. And then he says, well, I can knock it down to blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I'm good. I just cancel it, And he said, you're never going to get a deal better than this. I said, I'm already getting the deal
got it.
better than this. And he said, I just don't believe that. I said, okay, look, I've called to cancel it twice now. You called me a liar. Mm-hmm. Just cancel it. I got a call a couple of days later from a lady in quality control with Optimum, and she's like, how you didn't tell him where to F off at? I don't know. She's like, I've just listened to that entire conversation, and she said, Mr. Sanford, you brought up a very good point. You've been a customer for 22 years, and you have been paying about roughly that same amount for 22 years.
And I had a similar experience. We were talking about when they came and buried all the fiber all over town.
Yeah.
TCW.
Right Fiber came and just hung it on the phone lines. Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, that guy showed up at my house first. And I said, are y'all the ones that, and it didn't matter because Right Fiber's fine too, but $43 a month or $50 a month. So that was in end of February. In March, they came and buried the cable and set me up. I called Optimum, same get. And they send you, they don't call it, but they send you to retention. Mm-hmm. And so fast forward, Yesterday was the third time that I've called them, and I started out on just chat because, I'm not making fun of people that talk differently than us. I just don't hear them very well, and I'm hard of hearing, and if I put them on speaker, it's still hard to hear, so I was trying to do the chat. So I explained the whole thing to the chat person. She says, well, I'm going to have to send you to, I went, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I said, am I going to have to start all over? She goes, no, they'll see the conversation that we've had. So she sent me to billing. So I started chatting with billing. Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Barrios. I said, I've tried to cancel this. This is my third time. I've been billed 3 months now at $165 for my phone, for my internet and basic cable. And all I want is basic cable. I want to get my internet canceled today. Okay, we can do that. And we go through a big, long conversation. It says, well, I'm going to have you call this number.
They make it impossible.
So she said, I'll patch you through. Patched me through. I explained it again. Now, what is your zip code? 71730. I'm sorry, Mr. Troy. Unfortunately, you're in the Western Division, and I'm in the Eastern Division. I said, you have got to be kidding me. I said, you've got, and by now.
I'm getting anxious, and it's not even happening to me.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, I was sweating but anyway, I finally got to a person named Mary. And I said, Mary, I know you're at retention. I don't want to be retained. And I explained everything to her. I said, I'm being calm, but I'm out of my patience. All I want to have done is I want you to cancel my internet, and I want to keep basic cable. Well, how are you going to? I said, I don't want any questions. I don't want any questions.
Reading the rebuttals on the wall.
I want you to cancel my internet and keep my basic cable. And she was very nice. I said, and she started, well, how? She says, forgive me, Mr. Troy, but how do you plan to access the internet? And I said, I've got that handled.
It doesn't matter.
I've got that taken care of. I don't need internet from Optimum anymore. I've been charged $165. And by the way, I was so mad this week that I took it off automatic pay so they couldn't charge me again. Well, heck, it went up $10 more. So now, she says, unfortunately, we're in the middle of a billing cycle. Yeah. So I've got to pay. Anyway, another 45 minutes to get her to cancel my internet. I said, okay, now tell me. I said, let's recap. Tell me what we've done today, because it's all recorded.
Yeah.
Okay, we have canceled your internet and kept your TV. I said, okay. When did you make it effective? She goes, well, today. I said, that's not good enough. She says, unfortunately, that's all I can do. I said, you don't see all those conversations on my record where it says 3 months ago that I wanted it canceled? Yes, sir, but Mr. Barrios said, I said, all right, y'all got me for 3 months. I said, I paid for 2 cable companies for 3 months now. And so I've got her to admit that it was canceled, and it's only $53 for cable now, for TV. But I said, Martha, the last guy that I talked to, and you know, the call centers are in India, we all know that, and he was pretty slick, and he talked real fast, and he got me to agree to not cancel it somehow. He read all this stuff, and you know, by the time you've been on there for 2 hours, you're just ready to get off.
Down.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah,
wear you
okay,
out.
yeah. And I yabbed him to death to where the next month it says I didn't cancel.
So you Robert Edmonds. And Robert said he got his bill one time, and he's looking at it, he's like, dear Lord, internet and cable cost this much? So he said, by God, I went down to that office and I showed them. By the time I left, I had a phone and an alarm system.
That's it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it ended well, but it was an hour and a half later, and I had to go take another shower because you sweating. I was so. I said, Martha, I said, I am so stressed. I said, but I've kept my voice down. She says, you did pretty good. I said, that's why I wanted to be on chat, because I didn't want to, you know.
I can just go all caps if I want to.
I did. She says, thank you for your patience. I said, I am out of patience.
Yeah, I'm going through the same problem right now.
I know that's what you said, that they won't cancel you.
I've got 2 cable providers right now at my house, Optimum and AT&T. So I'm going with AT&T.
And they have fiber.
I call Optimum 6 weeks ago and tried to cancel, and the guy tried to sell me a cell phone. And it was 45 minutes and then transfer me. Same thing. Same exact thing happened.
They wear you out, I think.
They did. And finally I said, look, I have to go to work. I had to hang up on him.
Well, at the last, she kept me. She says, "Okay, let me finish all this, and I'll be right back with you in 2 minutes." It was 15 minutes. She was hoping I'd just hang up.
Yeah.
Or I'd get disconnected.
They're trained to do it that way.
Anyway.
No, man, I'm just, look.
Anyway. Hey, listen, I know they're just trying. I said, Mary, and her name ain't Mary.
Whatever it was, yeah.
I said, I know you're trying to do your job, and I'm trying to be kind with you because I know you're doing your job, but I'm through. You understand? I want it canceled. And I wasn't hollering, and because I'm a hollerer. My wife will say, it's tone, Troy, it's tone. But and I hate that for Optimum because they've long-standing. I've been with them since they were Century Cellunet, when they had it back in the pecan trees in Monroe. When I had a bag phone. That's how long I've been with them.
Wow.
It's not the same company, right?
Isn't it?
No.
Okay. Verizon.
That turned into Verizon. Yeah. It went to Alltel, then Verizon.
Yeah. My bad.
When I moved here 24 years ago, they were Cox Communications.
Cox. Yep, that's
and
right.
And then they
That's
became,
right.
I think they became Sudden Link. And then they become Optimum. And they may have been 2 or 3 other things in between those.
Iterations in there. So Verizon, I'm sorry, is the one that I have my phones through. And they started as Century Cellunet, CenturyTel, Alltel, and then Verizon.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I actually had a bag. That's who I had my bag phones through back in the day.
Yeah.
And our thing is they needed our tower, our radio tower, there in north central Louisiana.
So there was a little trade with them.
There was a little trade there. And one time, my bag phone got cut off, and I called and said, "Can you explain to me why my phone's cut?" "Well, you haven't paid the bill." I said, "There's not a bill to be paid." And they said, "Oh, that must have been an old deal. We're not doing that anymore."
Okay, well, then I'll take that tower down.
Well, the problem with that is we have a contract, and so I ended up talking to 3 or 4 different levels of people, and one guy that I spoke with, you could tell he was nothing other than his degree. That's all he had. No life experience, no common sense. He had a degree. And by gosh, he's going to very young. And he's going to let you know, well, I was pretty young too, so I'm full of piss and vinegar, right? And I said, well, I tell you what, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to shoot a rope across the top of your antenna. And I'm going to tie it to the back of my truck, and I'm going to pull that son of a bitch down. How about that? And he's like,
you can't do that.
I mean, that's an FCC license. I said, I know exactly. I have an FCC license. And you can only be on that tower if I let you. And I'm going to take it down. And
unless you turn my bag phone back
within a few minutes, I got a phone call from a guy. And you could tell he wasn't used to talking to people. He's like, I'm not sure why I'm having to have this conversation with you. But where are we on this? And I'm like, man, you tell me.
There are 10 people between me and the guy that called me and said, I need to call you.
Yeah. And, this is a guy who's like, y'all really interrupted my golf trip to call this guy, but we finally got it all worked out.
Pebble Beach. Where are you?
We finally got it all worked out. So, and
you
bag
hate
phone's
that.
back on by that day.
With utilities and all that you have to fight, and I wish it was different, but it is.
Well, the thing about cable systems, that's a franchise. Mm-hmm. They have to franchise the rights for that with the city of El Dorado.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe
a little Better Business Bureau talk.
Maybe we make the Chamber of Commerce come over and give us updates on what they're doing. we make the college come give us updates on what the convention center's doing.
Yeah, we need an update.
Maybe we need an update from the cable company. And I promise you, if they had to come in there and stand in front of the people that they screw around. It would be a whole different situation.
Well, and here's the deal. I hate to think that Southerners are different, but
we are.
But we seem like we are. And, I've never associated or lived in the North, and perhaps they have a hard time with foreign call centers. And I know they're trying to but lower the cost of everything. And but I've tried to escalate. I said, could you please escalate me? I'm as far as you can get. I said, no.
No, you're not.
No, there's a whole bunch of people up above you. I said, let me speak to your manager. I have a floor manager. I said, well, let me speak to that person.
Cable.
Yeah.
And last night, she says, Mary, I heard all the foreign language behind her, and it was loud in there. And I said, Mary, do you not have some headphones or something? I said, because every time I say something, you got to have me repeat it. Anyway.
She's like, well, you're hard to understand because you're a foreigner.
Yeah. She spoke pretty good English.
Yeah, she's in a cubicle with rebuttals taped to the wall.
Oh, yeah.
She knows exactly what to say.
Or either AI, translating it and then giving her the rebuttal on the screen.
Man, when she first started speaking and I was answering questions, I looked at Martha, I said, this is AI with an Indian accent. But
yeah, my whole thing is if you're going to do AI, don't give it an Indian accent.
This is Mary.
Thank you very much. I am ready, baby. You got the day to cancel your cable. Yeah. I mean, it's just like, okay.
Man.
I had one time, I'm one of these weird people that I pay my bills. And I had a.
Go figure.
Just laughed.
He's young. Yeah, you got to figure out. When you're young, you got to figure out which bills you're going to pay.
Yeah, sometimes you may not end up in the hat. I'm just saying. But I had a bill due, and I got the little thing in the mail. Hey, this is what you owe. And it's one of those deals like, one of the kids had to go to the emergency room, and now I've got this bill for something else from some other company, and it's legit. So I'm going to pay it, and I called the number, and. The guy's like, I can put you on payment plan. I don't need a payment plan, man. It's $800. Okay?
I'm going to write you a check.
I'm going to pay you right now. And
he couldn't get that?
He couldn't get to it. He wanted to figure out a payment plan, and I don't want a payment plan. Here's the plan. I want to pay you one time.
Yeah.
No, sir, we have a 10 payment plan that you can use. I don't need a 10 payment plan. Finally, I'm like, you know what? Never mind. And I hung up. And so
a week later,
I finally ended up finding the number for the company that sent me the bill, and I called them, and they said, "Oh, well, you can call our billing." I said, "No, I've called that number," and I said, "Just a word of advice. Y'all could have had this money, a few days ago, without going through that call center. I want to pay someone who understands the language I'm speaking, and that." Perhaps is their native language, And she's like, well, I don't know if we have anyone
that can take a
payment. Yeah. I'm like,
you're too big.
So let me ask you this. If I came to y'all's office for a visit, could I pay there?
Oh, no.
She said, yeah. Yeah, you would pay here at the office. I said, transfer me to that person.
I bet you she knows.
And when I told that lady she's like,
what is wrong?
She didn't know that I take payments.
I was like,
That's
you're too
insane.
big. Your business is too large.
It's just one of those things, I mean, hey, speaking of, I had I have a medical thing going on right now, and so I had to deal with this group in Little Rock, and I was going to have some tests and some procedures done, and they gave me this list of medicines. They said, if you're taking these medicines, you need to stop these 2 weeks before this biopsy. And I was like, okay. And so I stopped those. Well, I end up with, for the first time in my life, a case of gout. And by the way, had no idea your toe could hurt that much.
Oh, it crystallizes up in there.
Yeah.
And so, Dr. Benny Boomba, he gives me some.
You can stick a big needle in there,
medicine, and I'm taking this, and then I think, oh no, I've got this biopsy coming up. Is this one of the medicines? Do I need to reschedule it? I called 4 times. Never got a call back. However, the day before my procedure, I got 4 phone calls from 4 different people there, making sure I knew to bring $1,800 with me because that was going to be my part of what it cost. And I'm like, so y'all can call me 4 times, making sure I bring my $1,800.
But you can't call me back
when I have a question. But you can't call me back when I have a question. And so and then they do the procedure, and I'm waiting for the test results for like 2 weeks. And so I tell Dr. Benny Boombon, he's like, whoa, no.
Is he your GP?
Yeah. And he said, let me text the doctor who runs that. He said, because that's not right. Well, that guy calls me at 7:15 on a Saturday morning.
You're working?
He calls me, and I tell him, I said, man, I'm not trying to tell anyone how to run their business, but you got a problem. And he's like, what's that? And I told him, and he's like, oh no, that should never happen. I was like,
It did.
But it did, you know. And I said, incidentally, I've got a follow-up appointment with you. Do you know when that is? And he's like, no. I can hear him looking through papers. I'm like, yeah, neither do I. And I said, does that seem like a problem to you? And he's like, it does. And I said, okay. Do you know to this moment, I still don't know when that appointment was supposed to be?
Hadn't had the follow-up.
He didn't follow up on you?
But you got the results of the
I got the results.
biopsy?
He gave me the results of the biopsy that day. But so I've switched doctors
Oh, you
on
think?
that. Yeah. But I'm just like, that's just an example of being too big.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
Here's a guy it's obviously his calling, you know, to do what he does. And, but his business and his practice has grown to the point to where it's inefficient.
You know, we've given some negatives. Let me give a positive. Can I give a positive?
Yeah, absolutely.
You know,
no, we don't like positives at all.
We'll get to that.
Yeah, we'll get to those in a minute.
So, Dean doesn't know, but you know that I've suffered with my back for months. And, you know, anything that I have is major. If you have it, it's minor.
Yeah.
You know how that goes. When it's on you, that's bad. You're the first person that's ever had a bad back.
Had it that way, yeah.
So, you know, I would tell Martha, I said, you know, this is not sustainable. I can't function at all, much less I don't want to take medicine. I don't want to have a surgery. But anyway, I started going to Ortho, Arkansas, and I took the advice of another person that went to a pain management doctor. And I always thought of pain management as the guy that prescribes opioids. You know, that's what I thought pain management was.
A chiropractor who can prescribe pills, yeah.
But no, so, you know, they started looking at it, and I did an MRI, and they looked at it, and so they started doing procedures. You know, they do a shot at the right spot, and it worked for a little bit, and then it quit. And then I went through a series of things, but eventually it's all, for a while it was, the left was great, the right was horrible. And then they finally got to it and give me the shot in the right spot, and I've been pain-free now for, you know, 2 or 3 months. So never once have they not called me for a follow-up, or and I got an email this morning about my follow-up for the the shot that I had on the first. So, you know, Ortho, Arkansas, they're all over, and I go to the one on Fair Park in Little Rock, and this doctor's been really good.
They've been good. That's great.
And his nurse, not practitioner.
Yeah.
She's the one that really found it, where the right side. She said, "Well, that's your SI joint." I went, "Well, you should have told your doctor that." So he came in and he kind of was laughing about it. I said, "She's good, doc." He says, "I know." He said, "She said she found it." I said, "Yeah, they did." And he gave me the shot.
You know, back pain is the worst. You know, other than tooth pain.
Yeah.
I mean,
or a kidney stone.
Thank you, Jesus.
Yes.
I've never had one of those.
Oh man, I'm telling you, the only you know, I'm a wimp, and Martha says, you know, you have no tolerance to pain. She laid on the floor with a ruptured ovarian cyst, and took her to the hospital, and that's what it was. I said, oh my God, that is the worst. Anyway, if you ever talk to a woman that has had children and kidney stones, she'll say that kidney stone hurt pain is comparable to childbirth. So I birthed about 4 or 5 of them.
No, Jesus, no. You know, I, for whatever reason, and there is a theory out there that Gen Xers, we have a high tolerance for pain because, you know, we threw rocks at each other
and shot bottle rockets at each other.
Shot bottle rockets and Roman candles at each other. So, you know, mud fights.
BB guns.
BB guns.
Yeah, we did all that.
410s.
No. Yeah, just had a little salt in there.
As long as you're back far enough from each other.
It doesn't matter.
But the good news is you get 3 of them at a time. So, but I, for whatever reason, I do have a high tolerance for pain. And my doctor tells me every now and then, he said, look, you and I both know you have a high threshold for pain. I'm like, yeah. He said, so I'm going to need you to do me a favor. When something begins to hurt, let me know.
Well, when you told me that Dr. Vinny Boomba give you that shot that I take under anesthesia, and he said, usually they pass out by now.
That's what I was going to say. I had weed eated my mother-in-law's pond. And I just went down there, and I weed eated everything I could weed eat. A couple days later, brother, I couldn't move. I couldn't stand up. I couldn't sit down. I was just like, I was frozen. And I'm like, what am I going to do here? And so finally I go see Dr. Benny Boomba, and he says, he's like, well, we need to take an x-ray of your back. So he takes an x-ray, And he says, have you ever like been pushed real hard from behind into a pool or something, or fallen off a four-wheeler, or fell out of a tree, or been in a car accident? I said, yeah, all those. He said, yeah, it all shows. He said, but that's all in your upper back. He said, your lower back, however, there's a nerve that runs like it's shaped like a longhorn. It does one of those. And he said, you see those people who have those dimples in their back right above their butt cheeks? He said, that's where that, he said, I can put a steroid injection in there and relieve the pain. I'm like, dude, why didn't we say this to begin with? Because first he had sent, he gave me the steroid, the pills, prednisone. Greatest stuff ever, by the way.
Yeah.
Except that you could eat the ass out of a rag doll, and
all of them.
All of them. Yeah. I mean, good Lord, you talk about voracious appetite. And then
we passed them out at the rail.
Yeah.
Put it in the food.
Yeah.
Throw it in your tea.
It'll make them more and more food.
But man, for 7 or 8 days there, nothing on me hurt. I mean, it was like I was a teenager again. It was just like nothing hurt. My feet, my shoulder, I've torn a rotator cuff twice. I constantly have pain in that shoulder.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, it was like the greatest thing ever. Then that went away.
Yeah, you should take one little round of them. That's all.
And so then he sends me for physical therapy, and then I went back to him and said, let's don't do that again. Mm-hmm. That made it worse. And because, bless her heart, the girl who was trying to do my physical therapy was about 96 pounds soaking wet.
And she doesn't have any back problems.
And she's using her body weight as the catalyst to pull and to stretch. There's not enough there. Mm-hmm. Sweetie, go get that big girl up at the front that's answering the phones, and let's tie her into that.
Yeah, put her in that sling.
See if that don't help. But so finally he says, I can give you a shot. I'm like, why didn't we talk about this to begin with? And he's like,
I can look on Dean's face and tell he's never had back problems.
My brother's going through it right now.
See, he's never had it.
No.
So he's like, drop your pants. I said, it's my back. He said, yeah, but I need to get kind of low. And I was like, okay. So I dropped my pants, and I'm standing there, I'm facing the wall. By the way, he has a young lady who's a doctor in training. Uh-huh. She's doing rounds with him. Yeah. So now there's my cottage cheese looking fat, flabby, white booty hanging out there, and this cute little girl fresh out of medical school.
She don't know you.
She don't care.
She don't care.
Yeah.
I know.
But he goes to sticking that needle in, and I'm like, whoo.
Yeah.
Okay.
And he keeps going.
And then finally, is like, oh, and he said, there it is. And that was just getting to it. Now he injects this battery acid lava into my back. And I'm like, man, okay. I'm wiping sweat, and he pulls that needle out. I said, dear Lord, Robert, how long is that needle? He said, what is that, about 6 inches? Yeah, that's about right. It was about 6 inches.
Wow.
And I'm like,
yeah.
So I go to pull my pants up.
It goes all the way to the joint.
I go to pull my pants up. He said, I still got to get the other side. I'm like, oh dear
no.
God.
Did y'all do it?
Yeah, he did the other side. And then I'm like, man, that's tough. He said, most people pass out.
So,
I didn't know that was an option.
So to accomplish that with me, at this pain management doctor, not a GP.
Yeah.
Although I'm highly respective of Dr. Vinny Boomba.
Yeah.
They take you in there in a room and start asking you all these questions about where you've been and, did you have any bad habits in college and all those questions. So I said, yeah.
All of them.
She said, and so then this other RN comes in, okay, we got some Versed and some fentanyl to give you. And I went, fentanyl? I said, did y'all get that from Mexico? He goes, no. Smart aleck. I'm sure he's never heard that.
You're right.
He said, but here's the deal. He said, you're not going to remember anything when it's through. The Versed just relaxes you, and the fentanyl puts you under. So, by the time they shoved it in, I'm out.
Yeah.
And so I get back. They're building a house.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
So I get back to the room, and here's the doctor talking to me, and I'm asking him questions about what we're going to do. He says, yeah, we're through. I went, he said, I told you was going to have amnesia. And so they give you all that to do what you did, standing up with your pants down with another doctor in the room.
Man. And he's like, yeah, people don't really pass out. I was like, I didn't realize that was an option, or I probably would have.
You could have laid down
said,
at least.
We get these guys, he said, these guys that work in a refinery or one of they come in there to, oh, no, I can handle a shot, Doc. I can handle a shot. And he said, man, we'll get about that far into their back, and next thing you know, we're picking them up off the floor because they passed out. And I was in his office one time when someone passed out from giving blood. Big old guy. Big old guy. Had sleeves of tattoos, right? Big old bushy mustache hanging down off his face. And
intimidating.
And they're like, so they pump this ball, and he's pumping it there. And next thing because I can't see him, but I'm like, I hear, Mr. Smith, Mr. Smith. I need some help in here. And more nurses come running, and next thing you know, Mr. Smith gets up, and he's wider than I am, brother. He's like, Lord, he's all shaky. So something about poking into his arm there, getting that blood.
So one of the people that work at his office, I have their insurance, and I was in to talk about insurance, and he sees me, he goes, hey, he goes, you come in here, I need to whittle something off of you or something? I said, no, we're not whittling anything today, doctor. Do I need to whittle something off of it? I said, I like that hometown doc.
Here's years ago, I had to go in, and I told him, I said, I need a tetanus shot. And he's like, okay. And I said, my kid dropped the lead out of a mechanical pencil, and it fell into the carpet. I thought I got all of it, but evidently I didn't. And I had to dig it out of my toe, and it went right in the end of my toe.
You shoved across.
I was barefooted, and it went into my toe. And I said, I don't know, 20 years since I've had a tetanus shot. He's like, yeah, I wanted to give you a tetanus shot. You know, insurance didn't pay for that.
They don't.
They did not pay for my tetanus. It was $109. Was my part on $109 for what they charged.
Their daughter is just finished medical school.
Oh, is that
Dr. Vinnie
right?
Boomba is their oldest daughter.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I knew she was close. So such a pretty girl too.
Yeah.
Is she and smart?
She's tall like her daddy and pretty like her mom.
Yeah. So
it's a good combination.
Good combination. That's
better
right.
than the other way around.
That's
short
right.
and ugly like her daddy.
Let's see. Let me ask you this real quick, guys. Okay. This is what I have on my list. What do you think's going on? In about a year and a half now, 11 U.S. scientists, all with connections to the nuclear and aerospace programs, are either dead or have been reported as missing. The most recent being just a few weeks ago when Major General William McCaslin was reported missing by his family.
Have you heard about this, Dean?
Oh, yeah.
Dean works all the time.
Yeah. My wife says I watch too much news.
Yeah,
I don't watch news at all. So y'all may know all about it, but
I haven't gone into it much. But it's just obviously it's not only just dying. It's like they walked off and never saw them again.
You know, one guy I saw where they said they found his cell phone and his wedding ring laying there, like.
Right.
Well, let me ask you this: where did you get this news from? So it doesn't matter. But did it say anything about the Clintons in there? Were the Clintons? Did the Clintons know them all? Or
no, they didn't say anything about that. But you've proven you just proved one of our listeners.
Well, like I care if messages. It gets political. Like I care.
I just think, doesn't this sound like the plot to a book or a movie?
It does. It's got to be a movie.
You know, I mean, 11 in a year and a half, in basically 19 months.
It has to be a X-Files story for sure.
You dated yourself for sure there.
You didn't watch X-Files? Well, you were 12 or something?
No, I wasn't 12. I didn't watch.
That's back in the 90s.
I didn't watch X-Files. Yeah, it was. I didn't watch X-Files though.
Was that 30 years ago? So.
Yeah, exactly. You know me, when I think 20 years ago, I think the 80s. And
no, that's 40 years
ago. It was 40 years ago.
Yeah, me too.
You know, I mean, hey, it's just my
my birth date is closer to the ark than it is to present day. It's what some of these people think.
Yeah. That's
I can't wait to get to that.
You were born in the 1900s?
Yes.
Yeah, but don't make it sound like that. I mean,
how did y'all fix computers back then?
We didn't have him.
Well, we did before 2000 because we all thought it was going to blow up.
Yeah, because everything was supposed to die. Yeah. You know, planes were going to fall out of the sky, electric grids were going to be down, and boats were not going to be able to float. That's still my favorite.
Yeah, that's the Democrats thought that.
Yeah. I'm trying to help you.
You shouldn't have let me read that before we got to it.
You're right.
Well, going back to that story, I mean, if you look at some of the news, what has been printed on that, there's a lot of connections with those people.
Yes.
Between them?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I saw as well.
So is it a UFO thing? Did they get that?
I don't think so. I don't think so. Again, some of them just woke up dead. And
like I'm saying, was any of them in a park?
Well, the conspiracy theorists say
UFOs. Yeah.
I don't think that at all. Well, Although, I will say this. The number of UFO sightings, or claims of sightings, increase every time there's a nuclear test. Every time that the Soviets or us or France or India or Pakistan, whomever, tests a nuclear weapon, there's a uptick in the number of UFO sightings.
Or wars.
Yeah, and wars. So
Just saying.
take that in for whatever it's worth, you know. Now, listen, if I wanted this show to be like Joe Rogan, we'd all eat mushrooms before we start, and then we'd take off.
Well,
But,
the president said we can do that now. We can get psychedelics.
hey, you know what? I think that's smart. So for those of you who don't know, the president signed an executive order the other day that's going to basically tell the FDA, hey, we need you to speed up the process on
medical.
on medical use of hallucinogenics.
Yeah.
And
Not Windopaine acid.
ibogaine or
Yeah,
something like
yeah.
that, you know. And of course, there's a lot of people out there just screaming and hollering. Most of them are from Big Pharma. You know, they're trying to whip all the Christians up on that too.
Yeah.
But the thing is what we have found through certified factual tests is that some of these hallucinogenics are helping totally rewire the brains of people who have been suffering from PTSD, like debilitating levels of suffering. Again, I go back to Ron White, the comedian. Ron White, who was a helpless alcoholic, he goes down to Central America and does an ayahuasca trip, and he comes back and doesn't drink a drop.
On a vision quest.
Doesn't drink a drop anymore.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I haven't wanted to.
Yep.
Medically, they have done brain scans prior to and then after these hallucinogenics, and it really is like it's rewired their brain. And
You ever done any hallucinogenics?
you know,
Don't remember?
one time when I was a teenager,
Yeah.
I was offered some, and I wanted to look like I was cool.
And
so,
you, yeah.
so but I palmed it. I didn't take it.
Okay. Well, they say it changes you. You know, I've heard those people say, man, it'll change you. I said, I'm pretty happy where I'm at, man. I don't know if I want to be changed.
Yeah, you know, it's like they always said about cocaine. Well, it intensifies your personality. I said, well, what if you're an asshole?
What if,
So
actually, that was Bill Cosby.
Bill Cosby said that. Yeah, it was you know, I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, and she was talking about she got into an argument with her husband, and he said this and this, and then, or it was her ex-husband. And the next day he calls her and he says, hey, look, I was over the line. I shouldn't have, you know, I'd been drinking. And I was like, hey, hold on though. I said, here's the thing. Drunken words
Or like
are
truth.
just sober thoughts.
Yeah, that you're willing to
Just
say.
things you think when you're sober, you're willing to say them when you're drinking. I said, it's not like it'll make, that's the thing about alcohol. It will not make you do something you wouldn't already have a proclivity to do. It just lowers the inhibitions against doing it. And
Is that what happens?
that's what happens. Yeah. I will say, I know someone, I'm not going to say any names, I'm going to point and whistle, that we're playing in a golf tournament one time, and he leans over, he says, hey, you're sweating Crown Royal. You smell like Crown.
Yeah.
I said, that's you. He said, then it's both of us. Which there may have been a slight over-serving the evening before. But
Just a little bit.
but you know, drunken words are just sober thoughts.
Yeah.
But the promise of what these hallucinogenics can do,
yeah.
maybe
Let's look into it.
you know, let's
You know, Timothy Leary tried that back in the 60s, and
but like
you know, that was a whole different deal.
Windopaine acid is a whole,
Yeah.
licking a stamp with with the Rolling Stones tongue logo on it's a whole different thing than a medical treatment.
Well, they were trying to do it medically under controlled conditions, and it just turned into the hippie thing.
Yeah, I mean, of course, when you read and find out where methamphetamines actually came from, and LSD where it actually came from, the labs that produced it for the first time and what they were using it for, you're like, those people are in hell today. they have to be inhaled. There's no way.
Giving amphetamines to our soldiers.
Giving crystal meth to soldiers trying to make a super soldier.
Yeah.
Look,
stay up all
we
night.
know you hadn't been to sleep in 4 days, and we know that you're itching like crazy and your teeth are falling out.
But we
here,
got to
take another
this
dose.
hill.
We got to get
take
this
the
hill.
hill.
That's right. So.
Oh my.
All right, let's take a break. How about
Okay.
that?
All
Come
right.
back. We'll talk about some geography.
Okay.
Yeah.
I wasn't good at geography, but we'll talk about it.
Yeah, that's the one with the shapes, right? Geography.
That's the one, where things are. Geography.
No, that's
No,
geometry.
that's geometry. No, that's geometry. Where things are.
I don't think either one of us are right.
Geography is where you are in the world.
Okay,
Geometry is what's the third leg of this triangle.
that's math.
No, that's not math. Math is 2 + 2 = 4.
No, I'm saying geometry is math, right?
It uses math, but it uses math. I don't know.
And shapes.
Geometry.
Geometry is shapes.
Yes.
Thank you. That's all I needed.
Okay. I have a degree in music. What should I know about? I know what a bass clef and a treble clef look like. I can count to 4 and 3 and multiples of 3.
Yeah.
And 4 divided by 2.
And I said something to him one day. We're riding along. We're listening to something. I said, "Is that 3/4?" He said, "No, it's 6/8." And just like that. No, it's 6/8. I'm like, "How do you know?" And he's like, "I paid a lot of money for that degree."
My daddy did. I worked in the summer, and Daddy paid a lot.
He said, my daddy paid a lot for me to learn that. Like, yeah, have you used that any?
Yeah, not much.
No, not really. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll come back. We'll have more of Off the Back Porch right after this.
For longer than most of us can remember, Timber Lane Meat Market has been a staple of our community, where quality meats and friendly faces come standard. From everyday dinners to weekend cookouts, make it fresh, make it local, make it Timber Lane. Be sure to check out the daily lunch specials and like us on Facebook. Timber Lane Meat Market, 1336 West Hillsboro in El Dorado. Proud to be part of South Arkansas, and even more proud to be displayed on your table.
When the long weeks, paychecks are cashed, where we gonna spend it, buddy? You ain't gotta ask. When the neon lights are kicking on, all of us are headed to a home away from home. It don't look like much, but we're pretty damn smart for some good old boys that can't pass the bar.
A new shipment of express boats is in at Country Village Sporting Goods. Or maybe your boat just needs a little TLC. We have appointments available in our service department. And of course, we keep a great selection of Catalina campers. New baits, new tackle, and the latest in gear are arriving every week. So when we say everything you need to get to the water, the woods, or the camp, you know we're talking about Country Village Sporting Goods, 965 Smackover Highway in El Dorado. Like us on Facebook.
With a name you trust, you can count on us. Glen Mechanical, plumbing, heating, and air.
For over 6 decades, Glen Mechanical has been specializing in HVAC, plumbing, and all mechanical jobs. 3 generations family owned and operated since 1956. Glen Mechanical's business is based on relationships. They support and give back to the communities they work in. Contact them for all of your HVAC, plumbing, and mechanical needs. GlenMechanical.com.
Serving South Arkansas for 25 years, and all the while expanding and growing throughout the state. ProMed Ambulance is proving their motto of world-class care and hometown values. For example, their new mobile integrated healthcare communication center. This state-of-the-art facility allows communication specialists to work directly with local 911 call centers to ensure the closest medical team is always dispatched to any emergency. World-class care and hometown values. For more information and career opportunities, go to ProMedAmbulance.com.
What if I get in a fender bender?
State Farm's there with the assist.
Jersey swap?
Jersey swap.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Oh, I'm feeling this.
I assisted with security things.
Swap.
I assisted with popcorn.
Swap.
Get that jersey.
Get your corn there.
Hey, I assisted myself by filing a claim on the State Farm app.
Swap.
In my halftime show, I had
It's a great story.
We're done swapping. Too late, circus man.
State Farm with the assist.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And for those of you who were concerned, we were joking. We both know what geometry and geography
Maybe
are.
you do.
Yeah, well, okay.
Maybe Dean does.
So when my son, who is the civics teacher,
Yeah.
when he was on Quiz Bowl in like 4th grade, they had this book, and it was like these flashcards. And it had a big key ring that held all the cards together.
Okay.
And so you would ask him a question, and then he would answer, and you would flip it over, and there's the answer. So at one point, there was a question about geography, and Micah, my oldest, is helping him. And Micah's super sharp, you know. And she asks him, and it's a geography question. And Cam says, I don't know nothing about no geology. And she was like, looked at me and said, and that's why he's going to live with you for the rest of his life.
He's a 4th grader, though.
Yeah, he was in 4th grade.
And now he's teaching.
Yeah, now he's teaching.
In a very...
But not geometry or geology or geography. None of those. Yeah.
Civics
and U.S. history.
Okay.
Yeah. So this is some geography stuff that, and look, I know I'm a nerd, okay? I'm first to admit that. But this is stuff that I just found like, okay, that's weird, that's interesting. Remember, which do you think is closer? Miami to Los Angeles, or from the coast of Maine to the coast of Africa?
Miami to L.A. or Maine to Africa, which is closer?
Yeah.
Well, the obvious answer would be, you would think it would be Miami to L.A., but it must be the other one.
Well, they're actually about the same. They're both about 3,200 miles because from Maine, you can take a boat in a straight line to the coast of Africa, whereas in Miami, you got to go up Florida and then start coming across. And
can't fly over the Gulf.
I don't know about flying. I think they're
Oh,
talking
you
about,
meant driving?
well, by vehicle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you can go vehicle from Maine to Africa?
Yeah. Oh, it's called a boat. Do you know what the highest point in the U.S. is?
Right down there below Ruston a little bit. No, it's not Pikes Peak. It's in Alaska, isn't it? Okay, it's not?
No, it's Mount McKinley, and it's in California.
Really?
Yeah, 14,505 feet. You know what the lowest point in America is?
That's the Salt...
Death Valley.
Death Valleys, yeah, the Salt Flats.
Did you know they're both in the same county?
No, they're not.
Yes, they are. They're both in the same county.
Talk about highs and lows.
Yeah. See what you did there? Boom. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now they're like 230 miles apart, but it's still the same county in California.
I never knew.
But
that.
when you think, I didn't either. And when you think about that, the highest point in the contiguous U.S. and the lowest point are in the same county, and like, oh.
You know, I dated 2 girls in the same county one time, and one was very high. No, I just made that up.
Okay, what states all border Arkansas?
Which states? Louisiana, Texas,
Missouri, Mississippi,
and Kentucky.
No.
Okay.
Tennessee and Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Those are the 6 states. Did you know you can get to any of those states by driving south?
From where?
Just depends on where you start from in Arkansas. But you can be in Arkansas and get to any of those states by driving south, including Missouri, which is north of us.
Because of the boot hill of
There's
Missouri.
one little sliver there. So if you start in Piggott, Arkansas, and you drive due south, you will actually cross into Missouri.
Yeah.
Before crossing back into Arkansas.
So south, obviously all the rest of them. That's a pretty good idea.
That's pretty cool. What shape is Colorado?
It's
the state.
It's a rectangle. We're back on geometry now?
Yeah. Geometry and geography again. Actually, the state of Colorado has 697 sides. And did you know they have a name for that? Hexa, hecta, ina, acanta, chi, heptagon.
It obviously didn't straight like all those places that we see.
The way they have it on the map.
It's not like that.
They said because the mountains especially, it can't be. And 697 sides. 254 of those sides border on Wyoming. And so Wyoming, which also looks like a rectangle on the map, is not a rectangle either.
Yeah. Didn't know that. In this actually the southern border of Arkansas? Isn't it kind of not straight like it shows?
Oh, I'm sure that's the case. Yeah. Bristol, Tennessee.
That's where they have that car race. Ain't it?
Yeah, is actually closer to Canada than it is to Memphis, Tennessee.
Wow.
I didn't know that either. That was just one of those.
Because is Bristol all the way on the east?
Yeah, over there by West Virginia. Yeah. El Paso, I knew this one. El Paso is closer to San Diego than it is to Houston.
Yeah.
This is one that I didn't know. Atlanta, Georgia is closer to Chicago than it is to Miami. By road, anyway.
Well, by the time you get to certain gates at the airport at Atlanta, you may be closer to Miami.
You could have drove to Miami. You're right. It is 2.41 miles from Big Diomede Island to Little Diomede Island, which is off the coast of Alaska. Okay, Big Diomede Island is owned by the Russians. Mm-hmm. We own Little Diomede Island. It's 2.41 miles between the two. But there's 22 hours in time difference.
Yeah, it's time
because the timeline runs between them.
That's what Sarah Palin was when she said she could see
Russia from her house. Yeah. Big Diomede Island is called Tomorrow Island, and Little Diomede is called Yesterday Island.
That's funny.
That's crazy.
But you're looking at the same sun.
Yeah. Now, there was another fun fact. You can be in Santa Barbara, California, and actually watch the sun rise over the Pacific Ocean. Because
to Pacific, you can watch the sun rise.
Mm-hmm. Because it's an island off of the coast of California, so when they're looking out across, it's the Pacific between them and the mainland. They actually see the sun rise over the Pacific.
Santa Barbara's an island?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that either. Did you know that, Dean? Yeah. You've been there.
Yeah.
New York City is further south than Rome, Italy.
Okay.
And, just in our minds, I always picture Europe as basically the same north to south as like the United States. So you have Northern Europe, the UK and all that, and Scotland. It's all kind of like where Maine and Rhode Island, Massachusetts, all that. And then you get down to the southern parts, which would be Spain and Italy. And it's down like where Florida and Georgia are. Not even close.
Not close.
Mm-mm. The southernmost part of Europe would be equal with about the South Carolina, North Carolina state line.
The whole thing shifted further north in North America.
And the other thing is we look at the map of America, for example, and we never realize that the northwesternmost tip is like way further north than the northeasternmost tip over here, like in Maine.
Okay.
Because America's kind of tilted.
So, but we straightened it up.
We straightened it up on a map. Yeah.
And all of the continents aren't the right size on a map.
No. Not even close.
It's all flat anyway.
So I've been told. So I've heard.
I read that yesterday.
The other thing is, when you picture South America, you picture it south of America. But it's actually way further east.
It is.
Way further east.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the west coast of South America is like
on the other side of Miami.
Yeah, it's like even with Tallahassee, I think, Florida. So it's just weird stuff like that I find, and that's the kind of stuff that I enjoy.
Well, and I've watched that. If it's on Nat Geo, I'm going to watch it. Martha goes, "How do you know that?" Nat Geo.
Nat Geo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I listen to that Abercrombie and Fitch guy all the time. What's his name?
I know you
David Abernathy.
I don't know who. I don't remember their names.
Looks like this.
Yeah.
Anyway,
I'm gonna leave that alone. Glad to have our special guest with us, Dean Morrison's here with us this week. And Dean, we introduced you at the beginning of the show that you own Off the Rail and Madhouse 101. But how did you get started in the restaurant business?
Oh, wow.
Pull that microphone closer to you.
16 years old. I took a job in an Italian restaurant in Tampa. And it was pretty much my first job. And I remember going the first day and saying, I can do this. I walked into this high-powered restaurant, and they were going 100 miles an hour, and people were throwing pizza and making salads. And I remember driving home that night thinking, what in the heck have I just got
What have
myself
I done?
into?
So what was your first position? Were you like just dishwasher?
I was a cook. They hired me as a cook. They had 7 locations in Tampa. It's called CDB's Italian Restaurant. And they hired me. They were opening a new location. I grew up in a town called Brandon, east of Tampa. And I went to work as a cook, and they trained us up. And it was brand new. It was open. 3 years later, they handed me the keys to the restaurant and said, we want you to be a manager. So, my career my mother was like, you're going to college and you're doing this. Are you going to be a cook the rest of your life? And I was like, well, I don't know. You don't know what you're going to do at that age. So I moved out when I was 18 and supported myself and became a manager of this restaurant, worked there 10 years and became a roaming manager at 5 of the locations and worked. It was great. I was working Tuesday at one location, Wednesday at another location. So I met a lot of people, a lot of friends, learned a lot. And then at 29, my cousin called me one day and said, hey, this guy is eating in Casey's restaurant in Cleveland, Mississippi, and they're looking for a club manager. And she was a server called Casey's in Cleveland. I was like,
where's Cleveland, Mississippi?
Well, my grandfather was a farmer in Cleveland.
Okay, so you knew.
Oh, yeah. Rosedale, Cleveland. And I spent every summer there as a kid. Okay. So we had, my mother's went to Delta State. Okay. And originally from Blytheville, Arkansas. Ironic, I grew up in Tampa. So at 29, I called this guy back. David Cohen was his name. He owned 4 City Grocery. He was the head of the board. And said, hey, we're looking for a club manager. And he goes, do you got any experience? I said, in the restaurant business, I do. I spent 10 years in the restaurant business. And he goes, well, you need to come up here and see the operation. So I flew up, interviewed for the job, ended up getting the job. And at 29 years old, I moved to Arkansas and didn't know a soul. And I was an hour and 45 minutes from Cleveland, so it was kind of neat because my grandfather was still alive at the time, so I was I knew home was close. That was kind of considered home for me. And I had cousins and whatnot, and aunt and uncle were living there, and I was like, okay. So I started working the 4 City Country Club. And 15 years later, I went to Cersei, and 5 years later, I came here. And
wow.
So, it was just... Wow. I left my friends, my family, everybody when I moved to Arkansas. But it was a gut feeling. I said, this is kind of like my opportunity. I wasn't progressing as a manager of a restaurant. And I said, it'd be a better job. And I came here and worked at El Dorado. And what changed my life is when I met my wife. That was the game changer. And it kind of opened so many doors for us. And worked at El Dorado and didn't work out at El Dorado Country Club, and I got in a sales job. And this is kind of a funny story. I had a buddy of mine who owned a casket company, and he said, I want you to sell caskets. I'm like,
people were just dying to get in them.
Yeah, okay. It was a dying business, no doubt. And so I came in and met him. He actually came down here to El Dorado Country Club and tried to hire me. And I'm like, dude, I'm working as a club manager here. I don't have time to sell caskets. Well, things didn't work out in El Dorado, so when things didn't work out with the country club, so I called him. I said, look, okay, I'm ready. I'll work for you. So he takes me along and trains me how to sell caskets, and I was like, okay. And so I sold caskets for a year and a half. I drove around the state selling caskets at funeral homes. It was the most god-awfulest job I've ever had in my entire life, because I knew I was doing something I didn't want to do. I was making a paycheck and paying, bills.
That's why they call it a job.
Yeah, and so my father-in-law was in town, and I catered a wedding for Angela's oldest son, Jake, and I don't know if he saw my abilities to cater or whatever. He knew I was in the restaurant business and knew I was in the club business, and he said, I want to know if you want to come sit down and talk to me for a minute. So I sat down and talked to him. He goes, you want to get back in the restaurant business? I'm like, yeah. No. I went, no, not really. I said, what do you got? He goes, breakfast, lunch. There's a small cafe. There's a cafe in Portland, Oregon that I go to all the time. And this guy wants to franchise. And he's franchised in several locations. And I've been talking to him, and I think he'd be perfect for it. Well, I didn't have a pot to piss in. I didn't have any money. And he goes, I got the capital to do this. So I fly to Portland. We get approved. We drive to, I'm super excited. We're going to open. He goes, we're going to open 3, but we can't do it in El Dorado. It's got to be in a Dallas, Northwest Arkansas, bigger population. That's their deal. So we get approved, and we're driving to the airport, and he goes, well, I got one thing to say to you, and it's probably going to be a downer. And I said, what's that? He goes, Angela's not going to want to move. I go, yes, she was. She told me this. He goes, nah. Yeah, she won't move. I said, okay. So we get home, and I tell her, and I told her what he said, and she's like, no, we'll move. Well, 7 days go by, and we had that sniveling conversation, and she looked at me, and she goes, I can't move. I was like, okay. So I remember she telling me this, so I pulled the car over, and I called Steve and her dad, and I was like, look, we can't do this. He goes, I knew that was going to happen. He goes, just find a location in El Dorado. So Thomas, Angela's partner, and said, I got the perfect location for you. I go, where's that? He goes, the train car. Richard Mason owns the train car. Why don't you approach him about putting the restaurant there? Its guest quarters was being used as a continental breakfast place. So I went and met with Richard, and I said, look, I want to open a restaurant here. And that's how it all kind of began. We opened during COVID.
I remember.
2000. And it really kind of a blessing to open during COVID, because we kind
Soft opening.
We walked our way into the stumbling. And it was a big stumble for the first year and a half. And it's been nothing but a blessing.
Man,
it's been great. We've enjoyed it, and it's of course it's a lot of work and a lot of people, but I've got great staff and good managers, and it's been a fun ride. And then how the MAD began 3 years ago. I got offered to do some catering, and I guess Mule Kick was going out. They were kind of like, and Pam asked me to do some catering down there, and I was like, okay, I'll go down there and talk to her about this. And I told my wife, I said, there might be an opportunity to put a restaurant here. And I think it's not going to work out for Mule Kick. I said, what is your theory on that? Let's sit down and talk about this. And she was like, well, it's a lot of hours. And, I said, what about Thursday night, Friday night, Saturday night? And we'll do the catered events. And she agreed to it. Well, she agreed to me talking to her. I talked to her, and we got a good response with Pam. And next thing you know, I said, I got an offer. I said, we can do this. And my wife goes, I said, I'll only do this on one condition, Angela, if you come to work with me. And she goes, I don't know anything about the restaurant business. I said, I don't need
people.
I said, it's people.
Yeah, people.
A lot of times when people go to MAD, they don't see my face.
No.
I'm in the kitchen, because I like spending my time in the kitchen doing the food. So I wrote a figure down on the piece of paper, and I said, this is what you'll make a week. And she goes, okay, when can we do this? That's how it all kind of worked. So
to be the front of house.
Yeah. And Angela, we've grandbabies now, so Angela likes to spend a little time with them. She works a lot of hours cutting hair still. She's still working full time doing that. So when I need her at MAD, she comes over and she's my face. So that's how it's kind of worked out, and it's worked out. And we just started a new menu first of the year, and we kind of got heavy on Italian.
Yeah.
And the Italian
we talked about that before we started, and how much I enjoyed we go there quite often, and man, it's just gotten better.
I appreciate it.
All the way.
Off the Rail has become like a stop for me. A lot of times you have business lunches. I try to have a lot of business breakfasts.
Yeah.
And I'll say, hey, why don't we meet over here? We'll meet over there at 8:30, whatever. And I think it's neat. When you go to a lunch, for example, a lot of people are going to order a salad, or maybe, depending on where you are, a burger. But when you get to see people order breakfast food, you really find out what they really like, So, do you know the British guys who come over to America and they try the food, Josh and Jace?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So Jace is in Arkansas.
They're in Arkansas now.
We've reached out to them and tried to get them to come over.
Well, I did too. I did too. I said, look, while you're in Arkansas, why don't you come? I'd like to have you on our podcast, and then I'll treat you to some real southern food. And because he was asking about chocolate gravy, I said, I know the spot. I'll take you. His whole itinerary was already planned.
Yeah.
But he did go to the Razorback game last night, incidentally, and he said he was having a hard time with a lot of the chants, but he did learn how to call the Hogs. So, of course, Arkansas won last night, 14-3, so he had plenty of chances.
And they toured through South Louisiana.
Oh
and
gosh,
course,
yes, that's hilarious too.
Yeah,
watching those guys eat Texas barbecue was fun.
that was fun to watch.
And
I guess a lot of people have followed them.
I remember at one point they were going to eat some barbecue, and he picked up a knife and a fork, and the owner came over and said, "Whoa, put that down."
Kenny ribs. Nobody's looking.
Don't do that. But yeah, I too enjoy Madhouse 101. It's the food. I've never been disappointed. I've never had a moment. We threw my wife's birthday party there last year, and I told him, I said, look, I want about $700 worth of appetizers. That's what I want, I said, if everybody wants to eat, they can order their food. They can order a plate if they want to. But so, man, I mean, just all the stuff that was brought out was fabulous. And then we had some friends that were there that forgot to pay their bill, and
they thought you were paying it.
No, they just forgot to pay it.
Okay.
One thought the other one did, and the other one thought.
I got you.
And but Susan didn't miss her.
No, Susan doesn't.
She called me. She said, "Hey, your friends that were sitting right there, they didn't pay their bill." And I was like, "Okay, I'll get it." And I don't know. About an hour later, they realized that neither one of them paid it.
Yeah.
And so they're calling.
I remember this.
And they said, "Oh no, it's been taken care of. Sandy took care of it." So now they're calling me. He's like, "Come get your money." So I'm not coming to get the money. I said, "Just hold on to it." I think
we'll use it.
I think they ended up cash apping my wife or something.
Is Susan the one whose daughter just started working?
No.
Who is that? I'm missing the names.
Susan's my manager.
Okay,
Yeah.
I don't know her. I don't
Susan
know Susan.
Salisbury.
She's great.
Yeah,
she's fabulous.
I probably know her face, but just
yeah. Oh, you do. I promise.
Yeah.
But anyway, I had my 50th birthday party was there, and the one you didn't come to.
Yeah.
And but we made our announcement that we were doing Wildcat football from there last year, and then of course earlier this year we held that debate there, and. Man, that again is such a first class event. That was just
well, the atmosphere at Madhouse is just really a neat venue for any.
It is. It's a neat venue. Those guys did a good job putting that together.
Yeah,
it's first class.
Mm-hmm. And so of course we've got another event coming up in the fall, another political event, but it's going to be too big to hold it in there. It's going to have to be inside the music hall, and that's going to be massive. For as far as I can tell, it's going to be the first time ever that El Dorado is going to host a U.S. Senate debate.
Okay.
And we've got commitments from the Cotton campaign and from Hallie Schaffner's campaign that they're both going to be here for that. That's going to be a big deal.
Be great.
That's going to be pretty big, and so we're excited about that. We have some tentative agreements on some other big candidates that are supposed to be there as well.
Who's going to moderate that one?
Don't know yet.
I mean, you're capable of doing it. But
I am, but I'd rather not.
You'd be production.
I'd rather not do it. I can, but we had Shay Wilson. She came and did the first debate this year, and she told me, she said, I can't do the national one. She said, one, I'm so out of touch. Which congratulations to her for admitting and knowing her limitations, but she said also with the position I'm in, I really can't get into national politics. I was like, gotcha. Yeah. So that makes sense, But I don't know. My first thought is someone like Rex Nelson to come in and do it. But if we have the governor there, she's not going to come if Rex is doing it. So I may have to figure out something different on that. But Boomer, we got some letters.
That's what I heard.
Or I say letters again. That's because we're old. Messages, if you will. Dear Sandy and Boomer, I love your podcast. I either watch or listen every week. I love the reels. I love the guests, the topics, the Gen X love, the whole thing. This past weekend, my son, who is 17, and I were crappie fishing down in South Louisiana. I had the podcast going through the speakers on the boat. My son said, "What is this podcast about?" It was then that I realized I have no idea what y'all's podcast is about. I said, you know, Bud, I don't know. I like it. It entertains me. He laughed and said, Off the Back Porch, a podcast by two men who refuse to read the instructions of hosting a podcast. That's from Mitchell and Homer.
I like that.
We refuse to read the instructions.
Fits me to a T.
Sandy and Boomer, particularly Boomer, ask yourself this question.
Wait a minute. Just Boomer?
Particularly Boomer.
Okay.
Ask yourself this question. Are you who you hoped you would be? I mean, 30 years ago, did you say, I hope I turn into the very stereotype of an angry old white man? You turn everything into a dig into the Democrats. I happen to be a Democrat, and I'm proud of it.
Okay.
I don't care for the president, but not everything he does is wrong. I'm pro-life, but I think a person should be able to make that choice for herself. I own more than one gun, but I'm also a lesbian. And while I doubt that this will be read on your podcast, please be sure Boomer at least sees it. Signed, Margaret in El Dorado.
What was there a question in there?
Are you happy with who you've become?
Well, you know, everybody. You know, I was searching for middle management, and I reached it. So yeah, no, I mean everybody, especially when you're 70, you look back and said, you know, I wish I'd have done this, or yeah, and I. Perhaps I hate it that she thinks I'm an angry old white man. I don't like that. You know, I'm probably a lot more tolerant than I let on to be.
He is. You got to remember, he's playing a role here.
It's kind of the part of that.
Yeah.
You know, have you seen, you know, the grumpy old man, the ventriloquist?
Yeah.
The grumpy old man. That's kind of that's kind of where I'm at. I'm the grumpy old man.
That's his role. You know, that's his role here.
But hey, listen, I have a lot of friends who are Democrats. That sounds so trite, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And I
have black friends.
I have black friends. Yeah. In fact, I know one.
Yeah.
I have a daughter that's a Democrat.
Yes.
Who told us that when she was
here.
She goes, "Hey, don't get it twisted." Yeah. Because you know, I get right off. I just gave a dig to the Democrats, and she just stood up. And you know, there are certain things that are non-negotiables to me, and that's because of my faith and how I believe things. And if that comes off as angry and old, I mean, I can't fix being old. I'm old. But yeah, I'm sorry that she thinks I'm angry, because I'm not angry all the time, just when I'm here.
Just when you're here. Yeah.
Because you know, I said at one time, Dean, years ago, I made a statement. We were talking about being prejudiced. Okay, and I hate to say this even now.
Yeah, go ahead and say it.
Yes, I'm gonna say it again, because we were having that morning show conversation and talking about prejudice. I said, I'm not prejudiced. I said, I hate everybody. I hate everybody. I hate everybody. So the next morning we get the clip of him saying, well, we discovered yesterday that Boomer hates everybody. I said, I didn't say I hate everybody. He goes, I hate everybody. I said, wait a minute.
And I would play that clip 30 times during a shift.
Yeah.
You know, we just Boomer would be griping about something, and I just hit the button, and it'd be, I hate everybody. He told that same story on this podcast about a year ago, and I took that clip of him saying, and I did it again. I would just randomly put it throughout the podcast. But I hate everybody. So,
anyway,
let's see. Dear Sandy, you said a few episodes ago that if a person leaves their shopping cart in the parking lot, that tells you everything you need to know about them. That's true.
That is true.
That tells me everything I need to know. So you have a problem with abandoning your shopping cart, but you have no problem abandoning a subject during the middle of a podcast. Dear Lord, man, I'm still waiting on you to get back to all those subjects you said you would get back to and never did. Patrick in Hamburg.
Well, Patrick, I mean, it's the fluid, random thoughts that keep us going. I mean, how do you stay here for 4 hours and stay on subject?
Yeah. Y'all see about a 2.5, 3, sometimes 3 hour and 15-minute podcast.
We got to cut a lot of it out.
We've been up here sometimes for 5 and 6 hours, to make a podcast.
Trying to get something real and
something in that doesn't embarrass us both, right? Yeah. Dear Sandy and Boomer, y'all don't debate. You just take turns being confidently incorrect. Marsha in El Dorado.
Thanks, Marsha.
Yeah, appreciate that. Let's see.
She's a Democrat.
Dear Sandy, Sandy and Boomer. I'm a 46-year-old single mom. I have one daughter. She's 13. Yes, I started late. My husband passed away tragically when he electrocuted himself doing some home repairs.
Oh.
My daughter is the one who found him. She was only 10 years old at the time.
Oh, heavens.
Obviously, she needed some therapy. One of the things her therapist said was that my daughter was scared she was going to miss out on lessons that only her dad could teach her. The therapist recommended a number of things, one of which was to listen to some podcasts of men who would be about the age of her dad. So we've been watching and are listening to your podcast for about 6 months now. I love it. Y'all are funny, sincere, curious, and we pretty much espouse the same values. My daughter likes it too, especially when y'all do the Gen X stuff, because she said she'd never heard of that stuff before. But last week she said, Mom, do you ever get the feeling that when you're listening to these guys, there was a group project and no one did the work?
She's very intuitive. She's very intuitive.
She very well may have picked up on our whole shtick, Boomer. I mean, said her name is Lanya, and I know she would be tickled if y'all said
How old
something
is she
to
now?
her. She's 13.
Yeah.
If y'all said something to her, Missy, and she said, please don't put the city I'm in because I live in a small town.
What camera are we on? We're on that camera.
Yeah, on that camera.
And her name's Lanya?
Yeah, Lanya.
What a pretty name, Lanya. Listen, we're middle of the road guys. I am. Sandy's pretty intelligent. And a lot of the answers that we give are just off the cuff, okay? And most of the stuff that we do was a class project that no one did.
That no one did the work for, that's right.
But keep listening, keep watching, and hopefully we'll say something of importance that you can carry throughout your life. And thanks to your mom for looking at a podcast and, just listen to your mom.
Yeah.
So, listen to your mom.
Of course, Lanya, first of all, I am so sorry that you had that terrible
That's tragic.
hand dealt to you. That I can't even imagine. I lost my dad, and even though I got to spend a lot more years with mine, it's still so. Whatever you feel, it's okay.
Yes,
because that's normal. And yeah, there were things that no one else would have ever been able to teach you other than your dad. But hopefully, I don't know if your mom's parents are still alive or your dad's parents are still alive, but just remember this: the things that your dad knew, he learned from someone else too.
Yeah.
And I think you're on the right track. Keep an open mind, and
especially when it comes to us.
Yeah. You're getting to the age to where you're probably going to think that people like us have no value and we offer nothing, and you're probably right for us. But not everyone who's our age is an idiot. So keep up the good work, kid. Sound like you're doing the right thing. And Mom, Missy, hats off to you.
That's a very
because
heartfelt letter.
you're having to run a race you didn't sign up for. So
exactly, that's good.
We
That's good
really
stuff.
want you to keep watching, keep listening, and thank you. That means a lot to us.
Yeah, that's my favorite so far.
Mine
the
too.
whole year.
Mine too.
I just
class project no one did the work for. That's perfect. That describes us so well. Yes. Dear Sandy and Boomer, sometimes it feels like Boomer just lost an argument before showing up for the podcast, and he brought that same energy to the show. Andrea in Camden. So did Fru jump on you before you got up here?
I do get some damn it boys sometimes.
Dear Sandy and Boomer, do y'all really not notice it? Do you not see when Sandy reacts to something like 20 seconds after it happened? I see it on his face. He's like, oh, wait, I have a never-ending story about that.
2 hours later.
It's like every thought Sandy has arrives by mail 3 to 5 days later. Wes in Morro Bay.
Wes.
When I got that message, I was like, okay. So I went back to the last 2 podcasts, and I saw what he saw.
Did you see it on
my face?
Yeah.
And it was like I was sitting here, I was listening to our guest, and I was like, because I had a thought, and I, like you, I need to remember that thought. And so
at least you don't blurt them out like I did.
Anyway, let's see. Sandy and Boomer, this show has less direction than a shopping cart with a bad wheel. Roger in El Dorado.
Return that one. If it goes just go get another one.
Yeah, that's why I wouldn't go to that store with no name for the longest time. I want a buggy to go the direction I'm pushing it.
No kidding.
Not having Yeah. Not it looked like a NASCAR race.
Bent chassis.
Putting different size tires on the other side of it.
Let some air out of it.
Yeah. Let's see. Dear Sandy and Boomer, someone asked if I watch your podcast because I feel sorry for y'all. I told them no. The ones I feel sorry for are your guests. They have to laugh like they're hoping a joke will show up eventually. Mac in Spring Hill. Thanks, Mac.
Yeah, really.
I'd rather you just watch it out of pity.
Yeah.
So, Sandy and Boomer. I don't remember which one of you said it, and I don't care enough to go back and listen. But one of you said something about you had researched something. I totally laughed at that because the only research happening here is purely by accident. See it and cross it.
I know Sid. I'm going to call him.
Yeah, he said we didn't research anything.
Well, it's true. You do.
Yeah.
I mean, at least you print it out.
Yeah, that's right. Sandy and Boomer, this podcast has the energy of two guys who said, hey, we should start a podcast, and then never gave it another thought. Amanda and El Dorado.
I know several Amandas.
Yeah. This one just says Amanda. No A on the beginning.
So it was Madeline maybe or something? It doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter. Sandy and Boomer. Sandy, you need to watch your back because Boomer agrees with you the way people nod during a story they've stopped listening to 5 minutes ago. I'm just saying, Kevin and Rustin. So, gotta start watching my back.
Yeah.
Dear Sandy and Boomer, I love the podcast, but I hear y'all read all these messages of people just roasting you. I had never noticed there isn't a central theme to your podcast. I never noticed that y'all aren't timed or scripted. And I think that's what I like about it. It's just two buddies talking about things they remember, things they find funny, things that make them upset. Maybe it's because I'm closer in age to y'all. I'm 56. So I tried an experiment. I'd promised my grandson I would help him get his four-wheeler running. So this last Saturday, I turned on the podcast in the shop while he, his dad, and I are working on it. My son-in-law, his dad, says, so what's this podcast about? Before I could answer, my grandson says, you know how mom wants those uncaged eggs from the store? My son-in-law said, yeah. He said, well, it's kind of free-range conversation, Dad. 10-year-old.
A 10-year-old?
Said we had a free-range conversation.
Man.
That was from Ron at Lake Claiborne. So, Ron,
gosh,
first of all, thank you.
That's a better description than I've.
Yeah,
free-range conversation.
You know, if we ever change the name of this podcast, that's what it should be, free-range conversations. Yeah.
Or just start another. We could do one on Thursday.
Almighty.
You'd already do it. Aren't you doing one with your son?
Well,
too?
we're going to do it at Off the Rail.
Oh, cool.
But he's got to get his schedule a little more down pat.
Okay.
And he got to quit being sick. He'd been having some health issues.
How do you stop being sick?
Well, just stop. Just quit.
Rub a little dirt on it.
Yeah, exactly. Put a little dirt on it or something.
Put some ice on it.
Yeah, something. To do like Daddy, take a shot of bourbon, and then figure out what medicine to give the kid.
Look at a picture of Cree emulsion and take a shot of bourbon.
Daddy's
Cree emulsion. Boy, did I date myself.
Hey, I always
like
Cree emulsion.
That anymore.
I've never heard of it.
No.
You never heard of Cree emulsion?
No.
Yeah, that probably wasn't a Florida thing. Cree emulsion.
It was Granny made it on the Beverly Hillbillies.
The name Creo comes from creosote, and that's about what it tastes like. But boy, you talk about work. It worked.
For what ails you?
Yeah, you had
bad stomach.
You ingest it?
Yeah,
you drink it.
Oh,
yeah, just drink it. But
so what you had to do is there was gun involved, and if one guy was wanting to take it, the other guy would take the gun and say, now drink. And you'd drink it, and then you'd hand the gun to him and get you a shot, and he'd take it.
Yeah, that's pretty much
you drink.
Now you drink.
It was bad. It tasted bad.
It was pretty rough.
But I think it had some emulsion. I think it had some narcotics in it, didn't it?
Probably did. I mean, all the good stuff does,
Yeah.
But,
all the cough medicines back in the 40s and 50s. Well, I didn't live in the 40s. But in the 50s, definitely had.
When I was a kid, Daddy come and got me from school because I was running a fever and I was sick. And so we stopped at the liquor store. And I went in the liquor store with him, never mind that 101 fever and being contagious and
or no minors and
no minors involved. There was no such thing as no minors in liquor stores back then. But I go in with him, and it was connected to a convenience store called Renee's, and the guy that ran it, his name was Renee, and he was Middle Eastern of some sort, And he goes in, he says, "Oh, Sunday's not looking good." And Daddy said, no, he's, I had to go get him from school. He's sick. He said, that's why I come to get some whiskey. He said, you are going to give whiskey to your son? To a little boy. He said, no, I need the whiskey. He said, I got some medicine for him at the house.
Put up with you. Have you ever drank Dickel?
One time, yes.
Have you ever drank Dickel?
No, I've seen it though. I've never drank it.
Yeah, I wasn't impressed.
Well, if you need to sweat something out.
It's like, my wife likes Jim Beam, and I don't. I don't care for Beam.
Is it sweet? What is wrong
No,
with
Jim Beam to me is spicy.
Spicy?
Yeah. You know, of course, that dang Tom Mangum, I could just beat him to death for ever introducing me to Jameson.
Oh, I love Jameson.
Is that a Scotch?
It's an Irish
No,
whiskey.
It's an Irish whiskey. And so that was the thing is we're playing golf one day. He said, hey, you ever had Jameson? I was like, nah, I don't like Scotch.
What do you mix it with?
Whatever you want. But if you don't mix it with anything, it's just fine.
Yeah.
Okay, just
straight up.
It's like,
or water.
Yeah, but to me, it doesn't taste nearly the same. But it reminds me of Crown. You know, Crown you can just sip. And,
it's sweet though.
So Crown is a little sweet, but now Jameson isn't. But
if it's
we're
Irish.
playing golf. He says, "Hey, have you ever tried Jameson?" I said, "No, I don't like Scotch." He said, "Well, it's not Scotch; it's Irish whiskey."
See, that's what I thought.
I said, "Well, Scotland, Ireland, they're both over there together." He said,
same
"Totally
thing.
different.
Yeah.
Totally different." And he said, "Tell you what, we get up here to the turn, I'll get us a Jameson." I said, "Okay." So he runs in and at the club there, and he comes back out with 2 styrofoam cups, and he said, "I got us some Jameson and Sprite." And he said, "Now let that ice marinate in there for a minute." I was like, "Okay." And man, I took the first sip of that. I was like, "Dang you, Tom Mangum. Dang you."
You done flung a craving on you?
Yeah, man. You know, I was, so when we were over there the night of the debate, I walked over to the bar, and this guy behind the bar said, "Hey, got any ginger ale back there?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Throw a little Jameson in that ginger ale." Any one of those.
Better yet, throw a little ginger ale.
Yeah, throw a little ginger ale in that Jameson and hand me one of those. Jameson and ginger ale is pretty good. You know, of course, I get excited when Crown Royal comes out with a new flavor. You know, I have not been a fan of the blackberry, by the way. That tastes like cough medicine. And they say, "Oh, well, you need to mix it with cream soda." That made it worse. Yeah, that made it worse. The one I liked the most was when they came out with the peach.
Peach.
Yeah.
We sell a lot of peach.
I bet you do.
Yeah.
And so let me tell you what is good: ginger ale and the Crown Peach. That's real good. And that's one of those that it's smooth and it can sneak up on you. You know? When you turn around and see somebody doing this behind you, it's time to stop, by the way.
Years ago, my vet Jim and I used to play in the tournaments, and especially, you know, all of them. But we play in the one at the country club, and the country club had a great mixer for
Bloody
Mary.
Yes.
And we would get just the mix. Man, that is, and I don't like tomato juice, but boy, that
Me
Bloody
either.
Mary mixes.
Man, and that's something, you know, my wife makes the absolute best Bloody Mary. And I'm
Can
like
she make
you.
that mix that's spicy?
She does.
Yeah.
And now I'm like you. I'm not big on tomato juice. And
But if you put enough stuff in it,
yeah, that's right. You put enough vodka in it, it'll be just fine.
Well, I like it without
And
the booze.
Zing Zang makes to me the best. We sell Zing Zang at the
Okay.
rail.
Yeah.
And we sell a ton of it. And you don't have to do anything to it.
Okay, it's
Just
already
vodka
mixed.
and it's already made.
Okay.
Yeah.
See there.
And yeah, but he does stuff to it though. So I had a Bloody Mary over there a couple weeks ago, and let me tell you what they
My
did.
bartenders do stuff too.
Let me tell you what they did. It had a stalk of okra, it had an olive,
Yeah.
and a slab of bacon.
Yeah.
It had bacon.
Yeah.
We make it look pretty.
Now let me just tell you something. Bloody Marys are good just like they are, but when you add bacon
To anything.
you can add bacon to an ass whooping and it makes it better. I'm just saying.
Here's some bacon.
Here's some bacon. You know, I'm just telling you. Anyway,
Bacon makes everything
it
taste
does.
better.
It does. Anyway, I got there. My wife was going to meet me over there for breakfast, and I got there and I ordered because I just left the doctor's office. I mean, I had just left from my regular checkup.
Yeah.
And
So
I
you
was
thought you'd
down.
get
I was
something-
down like 6 pounds, and I was
Yeah.
feeling good. I said,
Put 2 pieces of bacon
I
in there.
said, I want that Bloody Mary with that bacon on it. And they're like, okay. And they said, you want it spicy? I said, yeah, I want it spicy. Well, my wife walks in and looks at it. And she says, I have one of those myself. She said, I don't want the okra. You know, so, but yeah, I wasn't a big fan of. Like I said, I've never been a big fan of tomato juice or
Yeah.
Bloody Marys until I had
Yeah.
one at the country club. And, you know, the very first time I ever played in the oil belt, and, you know, man, that was
Yeah.
4 days. That was a grind.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about, the oil belt.
And we would play in the oil belt.
Jim is still humped over from having to carry me through those years of oil belts.
Over on what then was number 13, between the green of 13 and the tee box of 14, they had a little shack.
Yeah.
Built right there, and that's where they had the Bloody Marys. Well, Orlando Garza and I, we're going to tee off. We start the day on, I guess we must have started on 17. So it's all the way back around till we
Before
get
you
over
get to
there.
13.
We get over there, and they're like, "Hey, we've got 2 Bloody Marys left if y'all want them." I was like, "Sure." Now, by that time, it's maybe 10 in the morning, and I don't know if they just had a chance to marinate or what, but my gosh, I was like, "What in the world do they put in these? Crack cocaine?" I mean, they were that good, and so then every time I would have an early tea time at a tournament, I'd always run in there and say, "Hey, Richard, can you hook me up with a little Bloody Mary?"
Yes, sir, Mrs. Sanders.
Yes, sir, Mr. Sanders. You know, I miss Richard. I loved
too.
I loved Richard.
I loved him. He was a great guy.
Richard
He was a great guy.
He was. Richard, you know, he had retired at one point, and then he made some bad decisions with some ladies that he allowed into his life, and they spent all his money up, and he had to go right back to work.
Oh, man.
And but man, Richard was a great wait staff, and I just enjoyed talking to him.
Yeah.
You know, now it was funny. He used to call Mangum, and I'd walk in, and he'd say, "Hey, classmate," and Mangum says, "You know," he says that. He said, "Classmate," he said, "He's 9 years older than I am." You know, so I don't know how we were ever classmates, but evidently at some point he remembers me from school because he's called me classmate since forever. And you know, but yeah, Richard was fabulous, man. I loved him, and you know, there's a couple others out there I wouldn't have give you 10 cents for.
Yeah, well, you just let those go.
I'm not going to say
Don't
their
think
names.
about that.
Yeah, but there was a group of us out there one day in the 19th hole, and we're playing cards, just BSing, you know. And somebody said something about the Lakers. I said, "Yeah, I'm not a Lakers fan." I said, "I grew up in Houston, so it's kind of illegal to like the Lakers, you know, because the Lakers were the ones who were always putting us out of the playoffs, you know." And but I didn't say that part. I just said I'm not crazy about the Lakers. Well, our waiter in the 19th hole walks over with my food, and he drops that plate from about right here. Boom! Hits the table. He said, "Some of us touch your food. You might want to be careful what you say about the Lakers." And I said, "Well, I'll tell you what you can do. You can take that plate and take it right back upstairs because I'm not going to eat it. I didn't do anything to us. It doesn't matter.
Still ain't eating
I'm still not eating it." And I got up and left. And then they charged me for it. So I made Ronnie take it off my bill when that bill come in.
I'd have made that guy pay for it.
Hey, no, don't listen. I'm very laid back and easygoing about a lot of stuff. Don't play about my food. Okay, don't do that.
Yeah.
And because you know, we try not to think about it, but you put an awful lot of trust in the people that are bringing that food in and out of that kitchen.
Absolutely.
And so, you know, if I can't trust you, then I have no business.
I have a buddy that, I just dread going to supper with him. Anybody that treats staff
I can't do that.
the way that some people treat wait staff need to wait tables.
Absolutely.
They need to wait tables for a week, not one night.
Yeah.
Because, man, I am just, you know, we had a little restaurant, and when I was in high school, I waited tables, and gosh, you know, it's hard at best. And he treats people like, and I don't think he means to. It's just he doesn't regard them.
Right.
Yeah, it's like they're
some people
part of the decorations or something.
Some people, they never get the chance to tell people what to do. They never get the chance to be the boss or be in control. And so it's their one chance. There's someone who they view as beneath them. And, you know, I don't get it. I got to where I quit going out to eat with some of the people from our church because they
wouldn't tip probably.
And they
want to put their money with your money.
Besides all the griping and the grouchiness and the demanding and the divaness that was going on, and then they wouldn't tip. And you know, I've told you before, I'm a 15%. Man, if you just show up and you don't sneeze on my table, I'm probably going to hit you at 15%. You know, if you go above and beyond that, I'm going to go above and beyond
we're
that.
We're always above 20.
And because listen, those people are making $2.97 an hour. You know, I mean, they live on those tips. And again, if you've never waited tables, I've never had to wait tables.
Yeah, it's tough. You know, you get a young server that's just starting out, they don't get a tip. They lose their motivation.
Well, that may be the difference between whether they have gas to get there tomorrow or not.
They've spent an hour with one table and get nothing.
You know, I told them, I said, you got to look at the end game is what I tell my servers. I said, work through the night. You got 6 tables, work them all the same. And you may have that one table that doesn't leave you anything, and then you may have somebody that'll leave you a $100 bill.
Yeah.
And that happened the other night with a young lady. She got yelled at and cussed at, and then somebody right behind them even heard him.
And
gave him $100
and did that on purpose.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, I've encouraged people before and watched them. And
hey, I've tipped my car hop at Sonic $100 before, just because I felt like I was being told to do that.
Yeah, if you get a premonition or directive from the Lord.
Yeah, I just felt like that's what I was supposed to do, and I've done that. And you know, you want to talk about want to change somebody's day?
Yep.
Someone who's working a shift at
give them $100. See what
at Sonic
they'll never forget your
and
face.
making $13 in tips for the day, and then you give them $100. Yeah.
Well, you know, being in the catering business, we've had a lot of people through the years, you know, work with us, and Martha is way more than generous. Way more than generous.
I agree.
And
I've worked for Martha.
So we've had people that I said, Martha, I said, is this somebody that's a project, or is this a project? I said, okay. So you know, your expectations change, and Martha has spent a fortune on other people, and she's, you know, if you're talking about building up your crown of glory or whatever you call it, you're putting it ahead of you. She's done that because she's just real generous.
I've got a story. I've got a young man that came in about 3 months ago, and you can tell he's down on his luck, and I could tell he was either drugs or alcohol problems. And he sat down with me, and I go, what's up? How you? And I introduced myself, and he said, I said, what do you look for a job? He goes, absolutely, I need a job. I said, I've never done this interview with anybody. The first question was, how long have you been sober? That was my first question to him. He said, 11 days. Just like that. And I went, wow.
He's pushing,
God bless him.
He's pushing through.
He's fighting it,
Yeah, so I said, where are you staying? Salvation Army. I said, okay. I said, I don't need to know your life story. I said, I appreciate you coming here. Have you ever worked in the restaurant business? No, I have not. He goes, I'm willing to work. I'm willing to learn. You know, gave me the whole spill. Well, I always tell my wife that somebody always walks through that door right at the right time. Well, my dishwasher didn't show up that day. So what did I do? I drive the Salvation Army. I walk through the doors. I look for this guy. Couldn't find him because they're not allowed to stay there. They got to go out. You know,
in the day,
within 2 hours, somebody got word to him, and he came back in. And now this kid is not only working as a dishwasher, he's working as a cook. And doing everything right, saving his money, staying clean, game changer.
Absolutely.
And that's the kind of stuff we like to hire. We like to hire. I wouldn't call him a project. We're trying to help this guy. You know, and will he be with me forever? Probably not.
Yeah.
But he can progress back to where he was
through this. Yeah.
Well, and you're teaching him a skill.
Right.
Yeah. There's the biggest thing. You know, he's going to learn. You know, he's going to learn how to turn the fond in the bottom of that pan into a great gravy. You know,
right.
He's going to learn how to turn that into a sauce.
That's a smart guy, and everybody likes him, and everybody's on his side. It's kind of a motivating factor when you get all the rest of them coming from normal lives, working with somebody like that that have anything. Yeah. And everybody has put their arm around this guy, and you can see the camaraderie is building up around him. And
how wonderful!
And it's a good story right now.
That's great.
But I told him it's one day at a time.
Yeah, one day at a time.
Yeah, that's exactly right.
With Rogue, one day at a time.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, I had a very deep conversation with a person one time because they didn't like my church and they didn't like my pastor, and they had several disparaging things to say, and I said, listen, I get all what you said, and that's how you feel, and I'm okay that you feel that way. We don't have to agree on that to be friends. I'm never going to invite you to my church. You wouldn't come anyway, so we're good. I said, but let me say this and why I fell in love with my church. I said, I sat on the front pew one Sunday, and I said, pastor's wife was sitting right next to me. I called her Sister Pastor. Sister Pastor sitting right next to me. The guy who's sitting on this side of me reeked of alcohol. But guess where he was on a Sunday morning? He was there. He was fighting with everything he had in him. He's fighting. I said, I have seen people in that church. They were still tweaking from whatever the last thing was they done.
Yeah.
And I said, but they're fighting.
Yeah.
And I said, let me ask you this. The guy who comes in smelling like the mink eye, would he be allowed on the front pew at your church? And he never said anything, but the answer was obvious. Of course not.
Right.
You know.
There's my answer.
Yeah. So do you want to explain to me how y'all are compelling them to come in? Do you want to explain to me how y'all are going out into the highways and the byways and compelling them? Do you want to explain to me why they call Jesus a wino and a friend of sinners? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, you know, I love how people love to get all high and mighty. It doesn't take a whole lot to turn that mirror around and say, there before the grace of God, go I.
Everybody needs to be humbled.
And so let's take a break.
That's a great story too. Thanks.
It is a break. It is a great story. And, you know, it's good that, one, y'all are giving him that chance. But it's even better that he's taking advantage of it and taking the opportunity. Yep. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with more of Off the Back Porch right after this.
The brand new deli is open at Davis Farms Country Market, featuring boar's head cheese and meats. Try the turkey bacon ranch, the London broil roast beef, the club sandwich, or a fresh and crispy BLT. Check out their cranberry pecan chicken salad, not to mention fresh hot gumbo, the soup of the day, and more. Davis Farms Country Market, 4523 Junction City Highway, or call 870-639-1323.
Bad things happen, and of course, they never happen at the right time. Maybe it's just a little bump and cosmetic damage, or it's turned into a huge insurance claim, and you just don't know where to go next. That's why so many of your neighbors and friends call on Cook's Body Shop in El Dorado. From the minor to the major, Cook's Body Shop is in your corner. Need someone to help you deal with insurance? Look to Cook's. Need advice on what to do next? Look to Cook's. Need a free estimate? Look to Cook's. Bad things are going to happen, and when they do, look to Cook's.
32 years ago, a young Robert Rushing began his life of public service joining the El Dorado Fire Department. While saving lives during the day, Robert Rushing put himself through college and law school at night, eventually opening a law practice in 2010 to protect and serve the rights of people in South Arkansas. By the way, he was still working as a fireman at the time. And after 23 years of service, Robert Rushing answered the call again and was elected as city attorney. Today, Robert Rushing still has that desire to serve. Re-elect Robert Rushing as El Dorado City Attorney.
Rated the #1 course in Arkansas by Golf Week, Mystic Creek is truly a hidden gem, complemented by a modern clubhouse, complete with panoramic views. It also features a fully stocked pro shop and Mystic Grill, serving contemporary American cuisine and Southern classics. Mystic Creek promises an unforgettable experience.
When it comes to your family's financial future, peace of mind matters. At Harrison Financial Management, they are right here to help you plan, grow, and protect what matters most. Whether you're planning for retirement, investing wisely, or securing your family's future, they will guide you every step of the way. Harrison Financial Management, your future, their commitment.
Everybody loves a parade, and Hilarious Pizza throws parades all week long. Bring the family in for your favorites, or explore the variety that Hilarious Pizza offers. Come join us at Hilarious Pizza for the greatest parade ever.
When it comes to protecting your home or business, trust the name that's been serving South Arkansas for 3 generations, Cross Roofing and Sheet Metal. From residential roofs to large commercial projects, The experienced team at Cross delivers quality you can see and reliability you can count on. Cross Roofing and Sheet Metal, built on trust, proven by results. Call Cross Roofing today. Put a solid future over your head.
Experience, courage, common sense. All of these are traits we want in any elected position, but especially in the man we will pick as our next sheriff. Michael Fife hasn't just been in law enforcement for 30 plus years. He's the one who answers the call in the middle of the night, putting himself last and Union County first, looking folks in the eye, doing what's right, standing up for all of us. Vote for Michael Fife for Union County Sheriff.
Hey, welcome back for more of Off the Back Porch with Sandy and Boomer. And Boomer, just again, can't say enough about our new sponsors at Smackover Motors and everything that they've got going on out there. And
on the bypass?
Out there on the bypass, Big James on the bypass at Smackover Motors. Yeah, Smackover Motors. And of course, for me, the big thing is service. Like I said last week, the days of just pulling your truck up under a shade tree or letting the guy down the road just work on, those days are done. You can't do that.
Used to, you could sit on the fender and dangle your feet in the motor and work on the top of it.
Yeah, that didn't happen either. But the thing of it is you need someone, if you're talking about your vehicle, and you're not now talking about a $3,000 or a $5,000 investment. That vehicle's sometimes $80,000 and $90,000. You want to be sure that the person touching that vehicle is certified and that they know what they're doing. Well, that's what you have at Smackover Motors. So thanks to them for being a sponsor. Our friend Rick Sand at All About Flowers. I said it last week. I say it again. It's the only place I've ever bought flowers since I lived in El Dorado, Arkansas. Why? Because I've never needed to go anywhere else. I've never needed to. She takes care of it.
She does well.
And it doesn't matter if it's something that's going to be sent out of town. She has the right connections with the right people that every single time I send flowers out of town and I see pictures of them, I'm blown away because they went above and beyond what I expected for what I paid. And so, again, see our friend Rick Sand at All About Flowers. Boomer, we have a letter asking for advice.
Oh, heavens.
So, okay, I'm just going to read it. Dear Sandy and Boomer, I'm a 29-year-old guy, and for the past 2 years, I've been dating a woman. Let's call her Claire. Claire is smart, funny, and has the kind of patience usually reserved for kindergarten teachers. Everything with Claire is steady, maybe too steady. Enter Lena. Lena is Claire's coworker. I met her at a birthday party about 6 months ago. And from the moment we started talking, it felt like someone swapped my coffee with rocket fuel. She laughs at my jokes, challenges me on everything, and somehow makes arguing feel like a sport instead of a problem. Here's where it gets messy. Lena recently told me she has feelings for me. Not in a subtle way either, more like a we should probably stop pretending this isn't going to happen kind of conversation. She knows about Claire. Claire, however, does not know about Lena's confession, or the fact that I didn't exactly shut it down as firmly as I should have. Now I'm stuck in the middle of what feels like a romantic tug of war. On one side, I've got Claire, stable, loyal, and someone I genuinely care about. On the other, Lena, exciting, unpredictable, and making me question if I'm mistaking comfortable for happy. I've not cheated physically, but mentally, let's just say my brain has been wandering like it has no supervision. So here's my question. Do I stay with the steady relationship and risk always wondering what if? Or do I chase the spark and risk realizing that I just lit my whole life on fire for a moment of excitement? Also, how honest is too honest in a situation like this? Because I feel like if I tell Claire everything, I might not have a decision left to make. I appreciate any wisdom you guys have, especially if it comes with a reality check. Signed, caught between a rock and a charmer.
Well, what's his name? He didn't give his name?
He didn't give his name, no.
He already knows what his heart wants to do. So, and I'm not going to offer any advice. This is something he has to decide. There's not an amount of advice that I can give him without knowing the whole. I mean, he's explained a lot of it, but that's something he has to decide. I'd say pray about it. If you're a praying man, seek some wisdom beyond me. Sandy might have something good to say, but I'm thinking, I don't know.
How about you, Dean? You got any advice for him?
I'm a happily married guy. If he's with the first girl, I don't remember what her name was.
Claire.
Stay with Clara. That's my advice. I mean,
2 years and she's steady and
yeah.
So I had some thoughts. I wrote them down. I said, well, Colt, here's my question. Why are you asking us? I mean, do you not have any friends you can talk to? Let's pretend that this is real and you have no one else to talk to, so you write into a podcast not known for giving sound advice to ask for advice. Let's pretend this is real. Because I know I'm not buying this, first of all. This is, if any of this is true, it's a portion of the story, in my opinion. But anyway, go get with Lena. Man, everyone likes the roller coaster. Go jump on, okay? And then have passionate, hair-pulling, back-scratching, wild monkey dance. Just go do it all. And then go home and break up with Claire because she deserves someone better than you.
Yeah.
She sounds to me like her life is together.
Yeah.
She sounds to me like she's going to be just fine with or without you.
Yeah.
And she deserves better than you. That's for sure. So
when you say you, don't look at me.
No, I'm looking because this camera's hot. That's why
okay,
I'm looking,
I got you.
that's why I'm looking back this way. But yeah, she sounds like she's going to be just fine. So I think let's do you and her both a favor. Go get with Lena. Then you be careful. Yeah, you're fine. He's adjusting cameras and it was moving stuff, and I was like, all that's going to come crashing down here in just a minute. It's precariously poised as it is. You know? But go get with her. You again. Let's go back to something we've talked about before. There's a reason Jesus said, when you've looked upon a woman to lust after, you've already committed adultery, because where the mind goes, the body wants to follow. It doesn't always do it, but most of the time it does. So, you know what? You and Lena, y'all are going to end up, knocking boots together. Get it done. And then do the right thing and give Claire her freedom. So that's my advice.
Wow.
I don't feel for that.
No.
I don't feel for him, So how about a Florida man, Boomer?
I heard a Florida man today, but I'm anxious for another one today.
So, Dean, the Florida man game is this simple. Go to Google and type in Florida man, and then put any date you want behind it. Just the month and the day, not the year. Month and the day. And just read the stories that pop up on Google. Invariably, within those first 3 or 4 that pop up, there's going to be some wild,
off the wall,
something wild that's happened, and it only happens in Florida.
No kidding.
Well, it may happen other places, but especially in Florida.
It may, but yeah.
Do they put the names behind it?
Yes.
Some of them have been
you
arrested.
haven't seen my name in it?
Not yet.
No, we
I'll
hadn't
keep
got all
looking
the
though.
I
dates yet.
spent 29 years there, so.
Yeah.
This one is out of Naples.
Okay.
Naples, Florida. A 34-year-old man was detained after attempting to borrow a decorative plastic flamingo from a neighbor's yard while wearing a flamingo costume himself. According to deputies, the man claimed he was just trying to reunite with his flock after the man had allegedly been out for a night of drinking.
Wow.
The situation escalated, however, when the homeowner confronted him and the suspect allegedly froze in one place on one leg. Quote, "It was like he thought if he didn't move, I wouldn't see him," said Abner Brooks of Naples. Quote, "I hate to spoil the suspense, but I did see him." He was charged with petty theft and disorderly conduct. Officers noted in the report the suspect remained committed to the bit throughout the arrest.
Oh, wow.
Wow. I think that is
If I don't move, you won't see me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope he had skinny legs.
Yeah. Here's another one. In the affluent Sea Ranch Peninsula of Hudson, Florida, 32-year-old Ralph Morris was arrested after neighbors reported him firing a handgun into the air during a thunderstorm. When deputies questioned Morris about it, he explained he was trying to scare the storm away because it would interfere with his weekend plans. He insisted it had worked before, though he could not provide any meteorological evidence. Listen to this. Officers charged him with improper discharge of a firearm, discharging a firearm while impaired, resisting arrest, assault on a law enforcement officer, attempted vehicular assault of a law enforcement officer, attempted aggravated assault. By the way, I don't think that's a real thing. I don't think you can attempt aggravated assault because it can only receive the aggravated charge based on the outcome of the assault. It's either simple assault or aggravated assault. Now this is the law nerd.
You can't
in
do
me. You can't attempt something and then know it's aggravated. Right. Anyway, attempted aggravated assault, fleeing, grand larceny of more than $10,000, petty larceny of less than $1,000, reckless driving during evasion, felony charge. So I saw all this and I'm like, there's more to this story. That does, you know,
he shot a gun in the air.
So what's all these other charges? Yeah. So I go searching around. Here's the other story. Here's the story that I found. It's from a different news source. A 32-year-old Florida man turned a thunderstorm into a full-blown police incident after deciding to take weather control into his own hands, literally. According to authorities, 32-year-old Ralph Morris was outside his home during a passing thunderstorm when neighbors reported hearing multiple gunshots. When deputies arrived, they found Morris in his yard, slightly intoxicated and scanning the sky. Morris reportedly told officers he was just trying to scare the storm off. Initially, deputies treated the situation as a minor offense and planned to issue a citation for discharging a firearm within the city limits. That's when things took a hard turn. As one deputy attempted to question him further, Morris allegedly became agitated. When told to calm down, he instead squares up and punches the deputy in the face, kicking off a brief but chaotic scuffle in his front yard. After breaking free, Morris sprints towards the street, where he jumped on an idling ATV belonging to one of his neighbors who had come outside to see the action. Deputies pursued on foot as Morris drove a short distance before circling back towards the scene. Investigators say he attempted to drive directly at one of the officers, who managed to jump out of the way just in the nick of time, avoiding serious injury. The chase didn't last long. Morris lost control on the slick streets and came to a stop after overturning the four-wheeler into a curb. Deputies quickly moved in and took him into custody without further incident. He now faces multiple charges, including aggravated assault on a law officer, resisting arrest, grand theft auto, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, all those. So I knew there was more to the story.
Yeah, besides just shooting a gun.
Yeah, when he had 37 charges, I was like, okay, so...
Something escalated.
Well, so my thing is what did those people who wrote the original story, did y'all just run out of time? Y'all couldn't tell the whole thing? Are you related to him? I mean, what happened there that you just stopped with? Officers showed up and he had shot a gun in there.
And incurred all these charges.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Either that, or they have a stringer they pay to go get these stories, you know. Yeah. Hey, go down to the police department and look at the log and see who they've logged in. Yeah. And they just log in all the charges, but they never ask any questions.
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much like our media right now. Yeah. You only get half the story.
Yeah, yeah.
And half of it's a lie.
You know, had a long conversation last night with, I went to the Business After Hours, the Chamber of Commerce had over at the Arboretum, which was awesome, by the way. South Arkansas Arts Center put that on, and went over there to that, and there was a guy came up and he's like, man, he said, I didn't know that this is what you did, you know, this is kind of your thing. And he said, I saw when you started South Arkansas Now, I was like, what's that going to be about, you know? And he said, I read it every day, multiple times a day. You know, because y'all update stories and all. He said, your Facebook page is like, I don't even have to search for it anymore. It just pops up in my feed automatically because I go to it so much. And he's like, man, you're filling the void that I didn't even realize was there. And I said, I don't think a lot of people realized it was there. The only reason and I told him, I said, the only reason people like Boomer and I realized it was there was because the stuff that we used to do, people stopped doing when we were no longer there to do it. I said, like weather coverage. And he's like, yeah, that's a big one. He said, I remember you. He said, didn't you almost catch on fire? I said, well, it wasn't that serious. I said, the fire did jump the road on me. You know, last spring, the 40-mile-an-hour winds, and they had a fire in Smackover, and I'm out there, you know, reporting live, and all of a sudden that wind shifted and the fire jumped the road. And now I'm like, okay, let's roll this up here. And then like 2 days later, I'm chasing a tornado in Magnolia and nearly got. That one. That's not the closest I've ever been to a tornado.
You can see it on the coverage.
Yeah.
I saw the winds on the coverage.
That's not the closest I've ever been to a tornado, but it's a whole lot closer than I want to be. You know, back then, though, when I was in my 20s, you know, you're invincible then.
You drive right into it.
Yeah. You don't think twice about it. But that one, man, whew. And I think I shared with y'all, you know, I was peeing. I was on the side of the road peeing. I don't want to be the guy they find naked in the top of a tree, right? That has always blown me away when they'd have some flash flood come through there somewhere and the helicopter comes in and saves someone from top tree. They're naked. Why is everyone in a flash flood naked? But that's how it happens, though.
Yep.
That's how it happens. Boomer, we get a lot of love/hate for me being Gen X and thinking that Gen X is the greatest, because I do. I do think that. In a lot of ways, we are. Again, I will say this. There's a reason there's never been a Gen X president. Yeah. And thank God for that, because we are slightly feral. We were feral children, that's for sure.
You're raised by boomers, that's why.
That's exactly why.
The hippie generation.
Yeah. But one of the things that I was talking to someone about the other day, I was like, look, my son loves to watch Bluey. I love Bluey. Bluey is a fabulous cartoon. I love it. I even got to where when the 1.0s were all smaller and they like to watch SpongeBob, I even got to where I liked SpongeBob. But nothing still compares to the cartoons we had when I was a kid. And so I Googled and said, top 20 cartoons for Gen X. Okay. And there's actually several lists out there. This one I agreed with more than any of them. So here we go. The top 20 cartoons for Gen X kids. Number 20, Josie and the Pussycats.
Yeah.
And I remember that one. I remember that one. Number 19, I thought this was funny. The Flintstones episodes with the Great Gazoo. Do you remember the Great Gazoo?
Yeah.
The little green Martian guy?
Yeah.
They only did that for like 11 episodes in the last season. And so it's got its own category. It's number 19. So the Flintstones with him, with Great Gazoo. Number 18, Speed Buggy. Remember Speed Buggy?
I don't remember that one.
Bink. And he would drink motor oil through his mouth. He was an animated car. Okay. And he'd drink motor oil through his mouth. And it looked like Shaggy and the gang. No, he was a dune buggy. And it looked like Shaggy and the kids from Scooby-Doo were the people that rode in him, but it wasn't them.
Yeah.
Number 17, Scooby-Doo episodes with Scrappy-Doo. And I have to admit, the ones with Scrappy probably some of my least favorites. I just didn't like Scrappy.
I don't remember those.
Yeah. And Puppy Power.
Okay.
Yeah. His little whiny nephew.
Yeah.
And, I always liked the ones with the Harlem Globetrotters. Those were always fun, too. Number 16, Grape Ape. Remember Grape Ape? Grape Ape.
Yeah.
Grape Ape. Yeah. Number 16, that was number 16. Number 15, this was my all-time favorite, the Laugh Olympics. So the Laugh Olympics, there were 3 teams. You had the Scooby-Doobies,
There's some lions and stuff in that one? Or?
Yeah. But you had the Scooby-Doobies was one team. You had the Yahoos was the other, and the Dick Dastardlies or whatever was the third team. The Rotten Scoundrels or something. I don't remember what their name was. And then, of course, every single event, it's like Olympic events, right? Every single event where the bad guys, the Dick Dastardlies, they're going to try to cheat at the event, and they get caught every time. But they're constantly taking on either Scooby and his friends, or they're taking on Yogi Bear and his friends. And so it was all the Hanna-Barbera characters. Yeah. And so I loved Laugh Olympics. That was my favorite. Number 14, Hong Kong Phooey.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Number 13, Adam Ant. Yeah. That one goes back now, because I was a little bitty kid when I remember seeing Adam Ant. So does this next one. Number 12, Speed Racer. Which was like Japanese anime almost.
Yeah.
Number 11, Captain Caveman. Love Captain Caveman.
Yeah. God, I forgot about all these.
Number 10, Transformers. Now, I was a little old for cartoons when Transformers became a cartoon thing. Number 9, Yogi Bear. I loved Yogi and Boo Boo.
Yeah. God, that's more than y'all's generation.
Yeah, but I think they made them up until like the mid-70s. Yeah. Let's see. Number 8, the Smurfs.
Yeah.
I liked the Smurfs. My little sister was
liked the Smurfs.
She was a big Smurfs fan. Number 7, He-Man and the Castle of Grayskull.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing
I love He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. That's what it was. He-Man and the Masters of the Universe. Number 6, the Jetsons.
Oh, yeah.
I love the Jetsons.
That was one.
Heard a joke one time.
Yeah. George.
This comedian, he said, "You ever notice how in the Jeffersons there's not any blacks or Jews?" future looks pretty bright, don't it?
Oh, my Lord.
Now,
Oh,
the
my
comedian
Lord.
was pretending to be Ross Perot.
Okay.
Because it was right
Just gotta
after
get under the hood.
It was right after Ross Perot said, "Well, you know what you people need."
Yeah, you people.
You people.
Yeah.
And that, so he was pretending to be Ross Perot. He's like, "Yeah, future looks pretty bright, don't it?"
Oh, my
No
Lord.
blacks or Jews. So, number 5, Penelope Pitstop.
Just about me.
I remember Penelope Pitstop.
What was she?
She was a race car driver.
I mean,
and,
she was a cat or a
no,
animal
she was
or
a person. A person, and she was cute and dainty and kind of an airhead
and beat everybody.
She always won the races, but she didn't realize it wasn't because of her great driving. It was because there was this this mafia that they were propping her up. And here's the reason that I remember Penelope Pitstop so well. A few years ago, there was a Facebook challenge, and it was like, upload a picture of you and tell it to find your cartoon character who looks most like you. Well, the one that come back for me was the godfather of that little mafia from Penelope Pitstop. And I don't remember his name, but, that was right after they'd done the, what TV character do you look like the most? And it sent back Tony Soprano, James Gandolfini for me. I was like, I'll take that as a compliment. Thank you. Number 4, Bugs Bunny and Roadrunner Show. Love Bugs Bunny, Roadrunner Show. Number 3, the Flintstones. I guess the ones without the Great Gazoo.
Yeah.
Number 2 was Tom and Jerry. And Tom and Jerry, hands down, one of the absolute best.
Forever.
I even remember the ones before they were named Tom and Jerry. Remember, Tom's name was Jasper.
Don't remember that.
Yeah. They had, of course, those were very stereotypically racist cartoons.
A lot of cartoons were racist back in the day.
They were. But I remember the mammy, she took a broom. Jasper, get out of my kitchen. And she's hitting him with the broom. And then she says, "I want you out. OWT out." Yeah, very, very racist. Racist is a 1940s front page.
Yes, yes.
And number 1, Scooby-Doo.
Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Where are you?
Yeah, and I totally get that. Now, I didn't, I said I liked the ones with the Harlem Globetrotters, but I didn't like the ones they would do with like the Mamas and the Papas. And, when they just like every single time it was, then there would be some weird song sequence and, they had the monkeys and.
That's all by me. I don't remember any of that.
That would have been like your time, man. The monkeys.
Yeah, but that was when I wasn't watching cartoons. It was my time, but I wasn't watching cartoons.
David Jones.
Yep. I was heavy into Bugs Bunny, into all those characters from those Warner Brothers characters.
Yeah, well, that would be Warner. Yeah, that was Warner Brothers.
The guy with the handlebar mustache.
Yosemite Sam.
Yeah. He was eating a bowl of cereal, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You had to be eating a bowl of cereal while you were watching that. Yeah. Then there was one on here that I didn't make the list that surprised me. The Super Friends.
Yeah.
The Justice League, and with Superman and Batman and Robin. And I don't know how that one didn't make the cut on that list. But
well, they didn't ask us.
That's right. That's the first thing. They didn't ask us. And so, in other words, what he's telling me is just to stop griping about it. Yeah. Because no one asked you.
Yeah. If we want to make a list, then we'll make a list.
We'll make our own. That's right. Well, maybe, by gosh, that's what we'll do. Won't you do that for next week?
No, I don't feel like doing that. I just soon talk about it when we get here.
Yeah, that's right. Well, again, we do catch a little bit of grief. People's like, well, y'all are a podcast about nothing. And I was like, well, okay, if that's how you want to see it. But what we really do is, I think that guy said it best earlier. We're two buddies. That's what we call it, off the back porch. Like we're just sitting around on the back porch, just talking about, hey, remember this, remember that, and dang kids, and get off my lawn, and that kind of stuff. But it's
reminiscing.
Yes, but it does take, for all the jokes about there being no prep and it takes a lot to put together a podcast that's about nothing. And that'd be like saying, well, they never had to practice anything for Seinfeld. It was a show about nothing.
Yeah.
Yeah, well.
Bank on that.
Yeah, exactly. But I ran into Charlie Hankins, and he's like, well, he said, I saw Steve was in, and y'all did a podcast. And so Steve's a guy that used to work with Boomer and I, and he's living in New Orleans, and he came in. And so
His mother still lives here.
Yeah, and his dad.
And his dad, yeah.
But he came in, and he was going to be here for just that a brief period of time, and so we wanted to do a podcast with him, and I said, well, man, let's just, he said he could do one Saturday night or Friday night. We did one Friday night. So we ended up doing it from Maryland's, and because we needed someplace that was open that, later.
Sure.
And it was great. I mean, man, the view behind us was perfect too. At night, and the squares all lit up,
Yeah.
and it really did turn out well. But Charlie said, I saw Steve was in. He said, I asked Steve, what's that podcast about? And Steve's like, I don't know.
I don't know. They don't either.
And I told Charlie, I said, we don't either. It's fine. It's okay. But it is, two local guys talking about stuff that happens locally. That's kind of been our thing. We like to have local guests. I mean, yeah, on occasion we'll have someone who has a statewide presence. We've got the guy who's running for governor as a libertarian, Colt McCoy. Not Colt. That was the quarterback for the Texans. Chase McCoy, I think is his name. Anyway, whatever his name is, he's going to be here in a couple of weeks. We had Rex Nelson on here.
We had a guy's former FBI.
Yeah, that
had
guy,
a whole
man.
Great story.
That guy's great. Chris Plants. I want to have Chris back again. He's just because what he does now is awesome. But we had him come in and do a very special episode with us about internet safety for your kids, and just the horror stories he told.
Oh, I can only imagine.
Yeah. And the PTSD that guy has from because he said, you have to see this stuff to charge these people, and he said you can't unsee it.
He was on the border of Texas, and they told him, go home, grab your wife, and leave.
Get out.
Don't
now.
Pack. Don't pack.
You've got to go now.
Go.
He had gotten so good at flipping cartel members from the Mexican cartel that they had put out a contract on him, and not just any contract. They intercepted a Supermax.
One of those.
Yeah, they intercepted this letter from the Supermax in Colorado with handwritten directions to his house and what his wife looked like and his kids looked like, and it was to kill all of them.
Wow.
And I mean, it was like days before Christmas, and they just had to up and leave, just like that.
Turned around, came to Shreveport,
and then was fired from the FBI.
Because he wouldn't take his Bible off his desk.
He wouldn't take his Bible off of his desk. He wouldn't hire an LGBTQ agent.
Through this administration or the past?
No, the previous one.
Yeah.
And he wouldn't hire an LGBTQ agent.
Was in just a rock's throw of his getting his pension.
Yeah.
And they got fired.
And so now there's some of us who've been working behind the scenes with some politicians. And I know he got to come up and meet with Tom Cotton when Tom was here. And Tom gave him 15 minutes. And he told Tom his entire story in 15 minutes. And so there's some of us who are working to try to get him reinstated. He said, man, if they'll just let me reinstate long enough to retire.
Right.
But he's got 26 years.
That's unreal.
And, he doesn't get his pension if he doesn't retire. And, they went from living a great life in what he called his forever house that he built to zero income.
Wow.
And it's been tough. It's been tough on him and his family. But he's got a nonprofit he's doing now called Webster Parish Men of Courage. They build wheelchair ramps for people in need, and they average like one a week, don't they? Mm-hmm. It's like they built 48 the first year and 50 the next year and 49 the next year. I mean, they're averaging about one a week.
They get to minister to people as they do that. And they have meetings from time to time,
Mm-hmm.
and my son-in-law's part of it, and it'll be 300 or 400 men that'll meet at the Civic Center in Minden, and and he's trying to call men out. Let's go do something.
First of all, to be men.
Yeah.
He said, there's no such thing as toxic masculinity. He said there's nothing wrong with being masculine, and this guy is. I mean, he's got arms this big around. You make JW over there look like a lightweight, and he's got these huge arms and.
Has a workout ministry.
Yeah, he has a workout ministry. He really does.
He's the guy you want in the FBI.
Exactly.
Yeah, right?
Exactly. A guy with morals. Yeah, that may be why they didn't want him.
Yeah, DEI got him.
But anyway, we had some guests that, again, like I said, from all over, all across the board. But we really do try to focus locally.
Yeah.
And so that's one of the reasons I wanted wanted you here is,
it's my pleasure to be here.
I'll say this: if you've not if you've not eaten it off the rail for breakfast, you're missing out. You really are. I had friends for years. I traveled the barbecue circuit and did those barbecue competitions, and they said, "Sandy, you need to open a place." And I said, "Man, here's the thing. I've watched too many of my friends drive themselves into their grave bankrupt from trying to own a restaurant. Right now this is fun to me.
Yeah.
It won't be if I have to get up at 3 every morning.
Yeah. Especially in the barbecue business.
Yeah.
Cook every day.
Yeah. And,
it's not easy.
And so I'm like, no, I'm good. I don't, And my thing is, especially when it comes to brisket, everyone wants that one slice. Well, there's only one of those in every brisket. That very one right in the middle.
Right.
There's one.
It's a 12-hour process.
Minimum.
Yeah.
Now I don't mind. Boomer's wife, she catered and she'd call me and say, "Hey, I got a stack of dead presidents I'll hand you if you'll come get all these briskets and pork butts and you'll cook these for me." I was like, "Okay, I'll do that." Ribs. Now ribs I don't mind as much. If I didn't have to serve brisket, I could probably see me opening somewhere that would do ribs. But yeah, that my whole thing is I judge barbecue places by their brisket.
Yeah.
And so it's really I don't want to do it every day. That's not,
No, it's not an easy process. Madhouse has an industrial smoker in the back, and I threw a brisket on the other day just for the family. I went back and threw one on and cooked it 8-9 hours. And I get home, I said, "It's only cooked 8 or 9 hours." My wife goes, she sliced it and started chewing on it, and she goes, "It's not done." And then we had to throw it back in the oven for another 2 or 3 hours, and then until it got. It's a process.
It is, yeah.
It is, and and that's the other thing is
the rub.
Yeah, well, it took me 10 years to come up with my own rub, and but I never was happy with any rub I was buying.
Yeah.
I just.
Did you make it? You make it yourself?
I make it myself.
Yeah.
And I'll share some of it with you.
Yeah, please do.
I'll get you some of it.
I'm smoking some brisket in about 2 weeks.
Well, this is going to be perfect. You'll love this rub.
It's good rub.
Well, here was the thing. When I went from using someone else's rub to making my own, I went from scoring 8th, 10th, 12th place to being in the top 3 pretty consistently. And that was a big one. And then I make my own sauce too, my own barbecue sauce for my ribs that I glaze right at the end.
Yeah.
And it took me about 10 years to get that right too. I also make a different.
Every day for 10?
Well, it felt like it. I also make a different rub for chicken, and we actually were that close to pulling the trigger on putting that on the market. And it was going to be called Cock Dust, but it is strictly for poultry. I've tried using it on ribs and beef. It's not any good. But I did all those competitions for a long time, and it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
And
it's different than doing a restaurant, though.
Oh yeah,
like you said.
Well, and the thing is I got to hone my craft. I just got to get better as time went on, and I've won first place. I've won first grand overall in competitions, but really, to me, nothing has felt as accomplished as I came in 7th at Memphis in May.
Oh yeah, I've been there.
You're talking about 360, 380 teams.
That's
you
a
come
fun
in
party.
7th. Oh yeah, and that's what it is. It's a party.
Oh yeah,
it is a party. The funny part was, I think at the end of all of that, I think I ended up winning like maybe $3,200. It only cost me like $4,000 to participate.
Yeah.
So I still lost $800.
Everything you had to do to get there.
But
when I lived in Forest City, we went to Memphis in May every year. That was
a
cool event.
It was a cool event.
Yeah, it is.
It was.
It is, and it's just what you would expect. There's some people out there with rigs, and it's just a barrel and a smokestack. I mean, that's all they. And then there's people out there, they put $250,000 into a rig.
Those big rigs.
Yeah. Myron Mixon, who's a 7-time world champion in barbecue, he called me one time and said, he calls me BA because that's my initials. He says, "BA, I'm going to be cooking in Pine Bluff and I need some help." And I'm like, "Okay." And I said, "What time you need me there?" "I'm going to get there about 5. I said, "All right, I'll be there." So I went and we cooked at this event called Smoke on the Water. And we ended up winning first grand prize overall. First place in ribs, first place in brisket, and like 7th place in chicken. And we won the grand overall. The rig right across from us in the little parking lot where we were sitting was an RV that when they pulled up, the first thing that happened was about a 160-inch screen goes, turns around from inside the RV to the outside. And then the guy gets out and pushes a button, and one of the fold-out, I guess they call them pop-outs on there, was his smoker. And his smoker, even without the hydraulics and all that smoker had to cost him $30,000. Easily $30,000. And, I'm like, you just got to love to do it, because you're never going to make that money back. I don't care how good you are.
No.
You're never going to make that money back. Now, Myron, his secret is he's from Georgia, and
didn't he tell you that if you win, you ain't getting none of the money?
Yeah. When we were there that day, I'm working my tail off. I'm over ripping that membrane off them ribs, and and all this, and getting that chicken just right. He puts his chicken in a cupcake tin. That's how he cooks his chicken. And so I'm deboning chickens, and I'm doing all the stuff. And he said, "Now listen, what you need to know. We win any money, it's all mine.
You ain't getting any.
It's all mine."
What a great guy.
And he said, "But I won't charge you one penny for what you're going to learn today." Well, there is something to that, because he does have a barbecue school, and it's $1,200 a day.
No kidding.
To attend his
Did you
barbecue
learn a lot
school.
that day?
Oh, you better believe I did.
Really?
That's when I learned what to fix on my rub.
So we need to get together, and you need to cook some ribs down at Mad one night.
I'll be happy to.
Okay.
That'd be a fun event.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be happy
And
to.
we can-
I'll attend that.
Yeah, we can. You can promote it through here.
Yeah.
I will sell the rack of ribs, and I'll do the trimmings, and
Yeah.
That'd be fun.
there we go.
Maybe we raise a little money for a charity of some
we
sort.
can do that.
Yeah, for Martha and Troy. How about
That's
good
a great charity,
Yeah.
but they've got enough.
Well, I need to tell you, all the proceeds are going to go to me.
Thanks, Myron. Here's what you need to know. Any money we make is going to be mine, but I won't charge you one penny for using that smoker back there.
Any plate you get on South Arkansas now, all yours.
Yeah, that's all up to you. That's all you can have all that. But any money we make,
if you want
I
to pick a charity, we can do something.
Yeah.
I think it'll work
so.
out
I think
perfect.
That would be great. And yeah.
Way to go, Dean. I love it.
But yeah, that sounds
That would
fun.
be fun.
That sounds fun. I could do that. We'd have to know how many racks we're willing to cut right up front.
And you got to keep in mind, you need to come back and look at the smoker.
Yeah.
It's not what you're used to cooking at.
No, I'm sure,
probably.
yeah.
I mean, it's got a hopper, and you just.
But the good thing is
you put the wood in there and push a button.
Yeah, you keep the temperature right where
Yeah.
you want it. That's the good thing.
Just kind of back away and do what you want to do.
I don't begrudge anyone.
It does a good job.
Because there's people who say, well, cooking on one of them Traegers or one of them pellet fed ones, that's just not real cooking. I disagree. Look, if that's the case, then you shouldn't be using a smoker at all. You should dig a hole in the ground and then dig an air hole for it and put all your meat in the ground on the dirt, and that's how you smoke
And
it.
cover it up.
Because that's how they originally did it.
Yeah.
And then people started, they figured out, I don't know, how to stack rocks and bricks and so, well, that's not real cooking. I cook mine right in the dirt. Okay. Speaking of, Myron Mixon will tell you his dad, when his dad didn't have work or they were short on money, his dad would go around the neighborhood and said, I feel a cooking coming on. And they'd be like, oh man, if you'll cook me a pork butt, and said next thing you know, him and his dad are out there digging holes in the yard. And that's how they'd smoke those pork butts, is they'd lay down a bed of sticks and set that pork butt seasoned up on it. And then they'd have another hole over here with a little tunnel between it. An air hole. And then they'd set the fire and let that air hole would suck that smoke right up to it.
Wow.
And he said, man, we'd have 25 or 30 holes in the yard.
Wow.
And, but that's
in tinfoil. They would tinfoil them?
Yeah. Or whatever, whatever they were using. But yeah, I mean, that's I don't begrudge anyone for, if you, my thing is always, because people say, well, teach me how to cook that. I said, man, you need to cook it how you like it. Mm-hmm. Competition is a whole different animal. So that's the thing is, I have a cousin who owns a barbecue place in Texas, and I showed up down there unannounced. My cousin wasn't there. His wife I had never met, and so she didn't know who I was. His daughter didn't know who I was, and so I walk in, I order brisket, and I sit down and I eat it, and then he comes walking through. He's like, what are you doing? And I was like, man, I just want to try your food. And he's like, well, I said, pretty good, pretty good. And then we were visiting a week or two later, and he said, just something he said told me he wasn't happy with his rub. And I was like, well, if you're not happy with your rub, man, I'm about to make another batch. I'll bring you some of it. And he's like, okay. So I made up a batch. Now, when I make a batch of rub, I make it in a stainless steel bowl that's this big, you know. And it makes about 3 gallons of rub. And I put it in quart jars, and I handed friends and family and people who wanted, and I gave some to Boomer. If you need more, I got some more. But I said, I'll bring you some of it. So I took him like a gallon of rub. And I don't know, about 4 weeks later, he calls me and says, hey man, I need some more of that rub. And I said, brother, you can't start using this rub.
Too expensive.
I said, you can't afford this rub. He's
I got you.
He's like, dude, I'm just telling you, I have never gotten the compliments on my brisket like I'm getting now. And the only thing I'm doing differently is the rub. And he said, I'm still buying my briskets from the same place. He said, it's the rub, I'm telling you. I said, I know it is. I said, but man, that's a competition rub. That's not a cook every day rub.
Yeah.
And I said, so that gallon that I brought you? He's like, yeah. I said, that's about $140 worth of just raw spices and materials. And I said, now you break that down into how many briskets were you able to do with that? And he's like, he told me a number, I don't remember it. And I said, so in other words, we're talking about by the time you get through cooking and you're breaking that down per pound, you just added like $1.20 a pound to your cost. I said, you don't want to do that. You know, don't do that. I said, I will help you with your rub. So the next time I was down there, he had his rub recipe, and he does one of these. And then he opens it up and lets me see it. And
he thinks he's the Colonel.
Yeah, I don't know. There were some things that he had in there. I was like, what's the thought process? He said, man, look, this was the recipe when I bought the place. And I'm like, okay. And I said, well, for example, I said, look, I'm not a chef. I have no culinary training whatsoever. I said, but I have learned a few things. And I said, one of the things I've learned is if you have dry mustard, you have to have white pepper. And I said, in equal amounts. I said, so you know how with my rub, like the first time I brought it to you and you stuck your finger in it, put it in your mouth? He said, yeah. I said, you remember how the flavor started here, but it ended at the back of your mouth? And he's like, yeah. I said, that's the difference in white pepper and dry mustard. You got to do that for that. I don't know why. I don't know the science, okay? I don't know the chemical equation for it. I just know that
you just know the geometry.
The geology of it, and it's amphibious.
Yes.
So, but
it can work on both hands.
It can work on both hands. That's right. And I said that's what makes that flavor go from the front of your mouth to the back.
So dry mustard and white pepper,
ground white pepper.
See, I've never put white when I'm doing just oddball. I'll just reach up in the cabinet and start shaking stuff on it, and that's what most people do.
Sometimes that's fine.
Yeah, Martha goes, well, boy, that one tasted good. I said. She said, what'd you put on?
I don't know.
I don't remember. Everything up there.
To this day, I made some little baby red potatoes one night and just baked them in the oven, then just kind of half mashed them. And then I put this rub and some honey on it, put it back in the oven, pulled it back out. And boom, I'm telling you, I've never eaten anything that good. But I don't know. I don't remember what I did.
You did? Martha's figured out something on green beans. I mean, on the long ones.
Asparagus?
No, not the asparagus. Green beans.
Regular green beans.
Not cut.
Okay.
That she cooks them and puts some stuff on it. And I don't know what I couldn't tell you if I had to. But I said, do it like that again. And she can remember stuff like that.
So the thing is my wife, who has the memory of an elephant, right? She can remember. She'll taste it. She's like, it's close, but that's not it. And she has a Hawaiian glaze that she makes for chicken that is out of this world. And so we had the one time we said, okay, we need to write this recipe down. We got to just quit trying to remember it because we're going to forget something. So, okay, we make it up, and I'm putting it in my phone, because, obviously the phone's everywhere I'm at. And so the next time we go to make it, it just don't taste the same. And we're both like, something's not right. And she's looking at it. She said, didn't we add some more brown sugar and some more soy sauce to that? And I was like, we did. So we started adding a little by little until we get it just right. And so then I had to go in there and change it. Now, so now the recipe on my phone should be the right one. But I just told my cousin, man, I'll help you. And there were some things he had in his. I I don't know what they were thinking when they put those in there. For example, I've never even heard of jalapeno powder. I didn't even know that was a thing.
I've seen it.
I didn't know that was a thing, but he added a ton of it, and I was like, dude, if you want heat, that's what you got. That's what you got chili powder for in cayenne.
Yeah, cayenne.
You know, and I said, and I told him, I said, you got to be careful with chili powder though. You'll give everybody the belches. You know, they won't be.
Have you ever had a recipe or a rub or anything, or just a recipe that was handed down that you can't duplicate again?
Well, I don't. Now, my ex-wife, she did. When she made chicken and dumplings, she made them from a recipe that her grandmother gave her, and it was on a 3x5 card forever, you know. And I think she ended up writing it down in several different places, and I think it's actually was in a family Bible that was given to us too. She wrote it in there, you know.
We have a family cookbook.
Yeah,
it's a lot of those. My cousin made. And she took all the recipes from my grandparents and aunts and uncles.
Yeah,
and actually made a book.
That's cool.
And
That's
gave
great.
it to everybody.
I wish I had my grandmother's cookbook, because my grandmother's cookbook was like that. It was. I remember my grandma. One of the things she made I loved the most was she would make these yeast rolls, and I just never had any that good. I don't care if, you know. You love to go to Lone Star Steakhouse or Colton's or one of those, or Texas Roadhouse, and you love the rolls, but they're still never as good as these ones she made. And I remember one time seeing her make those, and at the top it said Aunt Mamie's rolls. So she was making them where her Aunt Mamie made them. Yeah. You know, and you know, my grandmother was born in 1929, and Aunt Mamie was actually her mother's aunt. So it was her great aunt. So, you know, this is a recipe that's been going around since the Civil War, you know, and so but you know, she also used real lard when she made those. And to me, that was probably the difference.
Probably.
Because there would be times she would make it with Crisco.
Didn't taste the same.
And it was close, but not quite the same. You know,
Martha's daddy was a cook in the service, and chicken and dumplings was one of his. Now Martha said, to this day, she won't eat squirrel or rabbit or duck, or she said he was a hunter, and they always had something mulligan, you know.
Yeah.
But he made chicken and dumplings just out of this world. So it's later in life, and she and I are married by now, and so her daddy's name Buddy. Buddy called, and he always called Martha Scody. He said, Scody, said, get your pen and paper. Said, I'm gonna give you my chicken and dumpling recipe. So she writes it down and starts cooking it, and for years she cooks it like that. And one day she's talking to her older sister, and she says, you know, Monkey, she says, Daddy gave me his chicken and dumpling recipe a long time ago. Said, but I'm not doing it right or something. She goes, well, read it back to me. So she read it back to her. She goes, that's not Daddy's recipe.
Gave her the wrong recipe.
He gave her the wrong recipe. And so he hadn't passed yet, so she called him up and said, why'd you give me that fake recipe? He said, well, you didn't think I was going to give you the one I make, did you? Oh, my Lord.
That's hilarious.
But here's the one that I've lived with my whole life. When I was, you know, the fellow that tells the first story doesn't have a chance. My grandmother was born in 1898.
Wow.
And my mother was 40 when she had me. So, you know, my parents and my grandparents, in fact, my dad's grandparents were dead before I was born. But my little Cajun woman that never went to school, didn't read or write, and spoke French most of the time, and I thought she just didn't like me when I was a little bitty, but she didn't know much English, is what it was. But she would make the old molasses or the sugarcane syrup cookies. And it wasn't a cookie, it wasn't a flat cookie, and it wasn't a cake, but it was somewhere in between those two.
Pone.
Yeah, I don't know if she used ginger, and my mother for years, I said, Mother, make those cookies like Mama Mamie used to make. She said, Troy, I don't know how to make those. I said, oh my gosh. I said, we've been over there. You know, I'm a grown guy by now. I said, we were over there for years and you never watched her? She goes, I just never watched the ingredients. I just never thought about it. Then my sister tried it, and the only thing that is almost close is Grandma's makes an oatmeal raisin cookie that has the kind of consistency that hers made, but it's not that.
Still not the same. Yeah.
Not that Steen's sugar cane, that cane syrup.
You know, we always used cane syrup. I'd never
on pancakes.
Yeah, I'd never had anything.
I had neither
different until I was an adult.
Until I moved down to South Louisiana, everything was.
Matter of fact, I thought like I wouldn't order pancakes
because I didn't want
that whatever that syrup was they had on the table.
I'd ask them, said y'all have sugar cane syrup? No.
We always used Blackburn's cane syrup. There's one in Jacksonville, Texas.
There's one in New Iberia called Steen's.
Yeah, I know
and
Steen's.
And it comes with a yellow can.
Yeah. We had that too.
Yeah. Now, you can't add that to anything you're selling because that'll add $2 or $3 to your pancakes. Yeah.
Breland, he always his afternoon snack when he got off work was he would take a tablespoon of peanut butter and slop it down there, and he'd pour just a little bit of that Steen's on there, mix it up, and eat it on saltines.
We do that too, and we had a tradition at our house that when Mother made spaghetti, she would always cook some French bread, and we would pour out some cane syrup and eat French bread with your syrup and eat spaghetti. And I introduced that to my kids, and they, I've got a child that lives in Minnesota now, and she says, "Daddy, next time I come down, please tell me to buy some cane syrup so I can take it back, because I'll take pictures of it. We'll do it." And she'll go, "Oh my God, I can't believe you're eating that." So that's just those family traditions. But that thing with Martha and her daddy, they had that tease type relationship between those two. And he worked as a night watchman after he got disabled at they did construction. He had all kind of trucks, and he would stay at the yard at night. So she would call him and pretend to be somebody that was calling. Said, "Well, where's my rock?" He said, "Ma'am, ain't nobody here." So she'd fake an accent sometime, and I'd listen to it, and he'd be on the other end, and then he'd call his wife at home. He said, "She done got me." He said, "Scotty done got me again." And she would fool him about every 3 or 4 weeks. She'd call with a different story, and knowing he was the only one there. "Ma'am, I done told you there's nobody here but me." "Well, when am I going to get my rock?"
That's funny. Those are
that daddy-daughter thing.
That daddy-daughter thing, number one. But number two, when you miss them, you can just think about those things. Those are the things.
Good memories.
My dad was a quiet person. He was a funny guy and very gregarious, but I can't tell you one serious thing that we ever talked about his personal life. He just didn't share, and he and my mother were both married previously, and I never met his ex-wife, but I asked him one day, after I got a divorce, I said, "Well, Daddy, what happened to you and your first wife?" And he says, "Oh, she was just always building ice castles in July." And I said, "Well, what the heck does that mean?" He said, "I said she just had different ideas than I did." And he wouldn't say anything bad about her, but he was a storyteller about kind of like we are now about things that have happened 40 years ago. And he'd say, "Troy Michael," he said, "have I ever told you about the time that?" I said, "Yeah, Dad, I've heard." He says, "Well, sit right down there." He said, "I'm going to tell you again." And he could tell a story, brother, and make you think it was the first time you'd ever heard it.
Yeah. I was so fortunate. My dad was so young when I was born. Yeah. So my dad was 18 when I was born. He and my mom got married a year and 8 days before I was born. He was a senior in high school, and she was a sophomore in high school. And they didn't have to get married, but they did. And then they divorced when he was 23. And so he's 23, and he got custody of me with a 5-year-old. And Daddy had been a professional baseball player, and then he became a professional bowler. And I traveled all over America with him. And, he was single. It was the 70s. It was a different lifestyle, and I probably grew up way too fast. I spent most nights of the week was spent in a bar or a honky-tonk somewhere. I practically had my own booth at Gillies, there in Pasadena, Texas. And, but again, Daddy was winging his way through it, but Daddy was pretty sharp. And I never had a moment in life where I rebelled against my dad. You know, I'm sure there were times where I was a smart aleck because I was a teenager and, you know, I was a smart aleck and stuff like that. But I never at any point thought, man, he just don't get it. I never had that moment because, one, he was the only parent I had.
Yeah.
And so I didn't want to ever have a point where I'm pushing him away. And then, you know, when I got older and I went through some pretty troublesome times, you know, you go through a divorce and a custody fight and man, listen, if there was one guy I knew about bad relationships, it was my dad because he'd been in 1,000 of them. And, but you know, Daddy was there to help me through a divorce and all that. And because even though, you know, even if you are the one who asks for it, it's still not easy. You know, it's still not an easy thing to go through.
No.
And, but I was so thankful for the years I did have him. You know, I'm thankful that he had me so young because it was never like he was ever too old. He dated practically half my teachers when I was in school. You know, there was one, he'd asked her out during the school year and she's like, not as long as I'm Sandy's teacher. No. And there just, she, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. No, absolutely not. And I just always assumed she just wasn't interested, you know. And on the last day of school, she said, you about to catch the bus? And I said, yes, ma'am. And she said, won't you wait right here? I'll carry you home. And I was like, okay. That was a Friday. She left our house the next Friday.
Oh, wow.
It was the end of school. She wasn't your teacher anymore.
She wasn't my teacher anymore. And so that was a true story. Yeah, that was.
Or very well could be true.
Or very well could be. That's right. Yeah. Daddy, he was quite the ladies' man back in the day. And of course, you know, he had girlfriends at every bowling alley in the South. And, you know, I always knew when we went to this bowling alley, he was going to be with what's her name, and we went to this one, it was going to be that one. And so one time we're going to this bowling alley, and we stop at this convenience store just up the road before we get to that bowling alley. Well, there was the lady that he sees from that bowling alley. She's there in that convenience store too, and so she was like, "Hey, do you want to ride with me to the bowling alley?" And I was like, "Okay." Now I'm like 8. I get in her car. And we start off towards the bowling alley, and it's just a few blocks. And she was like, you know, your dad and I have been seeing each other for a while now. And I was like, yeah. And she said, what would you think about me becoming your mommy? And I said, I have a mama. And she was like, I understand, but what would you think if your dad and I got married? And I sat there for a second, and I said, oh, you think you're the only one. And she's like, what? I said, you think you're his only girlfriend. I get it now. Okay.
You're 8?
I'm 8. And
you were a smart aleck.
Well, I wasn't trying to be. I was genuinely trying to figure out why is she saying that. Yeah. And then it dawns on me, she thinks she's the only girlfriend. And
you didn't realize what that would do to her.
I didn't know.
Yeah.
And so we get to the bowling alley. She pulls up to the door instead of parking. And so I jump out and go in. And I'm telling that story 30, 40 years later. And Daddy said, is that what happened to her? He said, I never knew. He said, just one day she quit showing up.
Wow.
And he said, I never knew what happened to her. And I was like, yeah, that was it. And he said, yeah, she did think she was the only one. He said, but I never lied about that. I was never telling them, you know, you're the only one for me.
Yeah.
He said, because none of them was the only one for me.
Yeah.
We know, Daddy.
Yeah, Daddy, we know that. Yep. Playa.
Yeah. My thing was, and I've told Boomer this before, Dean, I said, we go to somebody's house, 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. And Daddy said, hey, we're going to go back here and watch some TV. You turn on the TV there, you're good. Okay. I knew better than that. But I'd get up and I'd walk around and I'd look on the walls. If there was wedding photos and stuff, I knew we weren't going to be here all night. We're only going to be here for a few hours. And so I need not go to sleep. But if there weren't wedding photos and stuff like that up, then I could go to sleep and Daddy'd wake me up in the morning.
You'd find your place on the couch.
Yeah.
It did. I'll give you my dad's story. We lost Daddy last year. He was 89.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Had a great life.
Yeah.
And Alzheimer's and dementia. And, you know, it was a 5-year period. But in the early stages, he'd always tell the story. The story we've all heard the story 1,000 times. Sure. So when he was 23 or 24, he bought a small plane. He lived in Ohio, and bought a small plane and was flying. I don't remember what city to city, and the weather got bad, and he had to put the plane down in a field. And he's like, "Look, I got to land this plane." So he landed the plane, and a farmer came out and helped him and stuff, and the storm went over, and he said, "Well, I got to take back off and head back home." So he gets flying up, and then the weather got bad again. And he said, "I'm looking around, and I see another field." And I said, "What's the chances of me landing in a field twice in one day?" So he lands in the field. He said within 3 minutes, he landed in the Ohio State Prison.
Oh, wow.
Here comes all the guards out with a...
Yeah,
and I said, really? When I was little, I was like, really?
Come on, Dad.
So I've seen the news, actually seen the newspaper clipping of this, where Paul Morrison landed a small plane, and they thought he was, flying somebody
there
out
to
of
break somebody out, yeah. Holy cow. Man.
They came with pistols drawn.
He said it was pretty intense for a second, and then they realized the weather was bad. And what happened?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah,
but still,
he was a character too. He was married 5 times.
Yeah, my dad too.
Yeah, so
the joie de vivre.
My mom and my dad, they were married for almost 7 years. Now, they were split up for a while before they divorced, but they were married for almost 7 years. Then there was his second wife. She was I think that was maybe 6 months. And then his third wife, I don't know, because they broke up and got back together so many times. It was, I even quit keeping up with it.
Yeah.
And now that marriage did produce my sister. And so I do have a sister. But yeah, that was... But for the majority of Daddy's life, he was single. For almost all of his life, he was single. And, he just got to where, as he got older, he told me, he said, "Man, I just don't, I can't see me being married." He said, I got things the way I like them.
Yeah.
And that's how I want to do things.
It's not for everybody.
And, Daddy made a lot of money, especially the last few years he worked. And it was, I always said it was a good thing because he was terrible with money. My dad was terrible with money because he had no one to check him, So if Daddy just is sitting there one day and said, "I think I want a new boat," he'd just go buy it. I want a new truck. He'd just go buy it. And the problem was after he retired, he kept living like that.
Yeah.
And so Daddy went into his grave. COVID got my dad in 21, and he was only 68. And but he went to his grave with like $11 in the bank, and which is, hey, good for him. He enjoyed life and lived it. It made it difficult for me, making sure he got buried.
Yeah.
but yeah, and anyone who knows me for more than a couple minutes, they know how I felt about my dad, that I loved him. My dad we would call him and we'd put him on the air with us and let him just tell stories, of when I was a kid, and I was his wingman. Helping him pick up women. But again, those are the things that when I miss him most, I think back about those.
Yeah.
And even it's not even being the wingman; it's the fact of when he would call in on the radio and tell that story. That's what I think about. Just as an adult, that I had a job where he could participate in it. And that was a lot of fun to me too. And the invention of the internet made it to where he could listen to my show every day. And he did. He listened every day. And so did everyone in his shop. And so did everyone in the office. And so did everyone out the plant. He had them all listening every day. And that was, that's the stuff I try to remember. But, he's been gone almost 4 years, or almost 5 now. And I still pick my phone up to text him or call him. Yeah. I still do that.
That takes time.
And that's when it gets you the worst, you know.
For a long time, and Dad and I loved sports together, and especially football. And one New Year's, I'll date myself, he went and bought a color TV so we could watch the bowl games in color.
Yeah.
And then when we moved to Oklahoma, he went and bought another TV so we could watch two games.
Two games at the same time.
So for years after he passed, I was 30 when he passed. I'd still want to call him when I'd see something about a football game. I'd think let me call Dad. You just forget. Yeah. Those are the good things you remember.
Breland, as my grandfather, and Breland taught me how to love sports on radio. So when I was a kid, my grandfather, who grew up in the sand hills, the piney woods of East Texas, got his first pair of shoes when he got drafted into the Navy during World War II.
Wow!
But he got out of the Navy after World War II, and he got an engineering degree from the University of Houston, and so Breland was a huge University of Houston Cougars fan. And we used to listen to their games on the radio at the old Hoffines Pavilion there in Houston. And I remember I'd love listening. I'd get right over by his chair. He had his recliner here, and he had the radio here, and right beside it was the couch. And I would lay down on the couch and put my ear, because he kept it down real low. But every so often, especially Houston Cougars basketball, and if you remember, that was in the time of Phi Slamma Jamma.
Yeah.
They were it. They were hot. Well, there was this chant they would do at the Hoffines Pavilion, and it was like, whose house? Coog's house. And every so often, I'd hear him. He would real low.
He'd join in.
He'd real low. He said, whose house? Coog's house. He loved it.
That's cool.
Also, baseball on radio. That's where I learned to love baseball on radio, because back then, especially, first of all, you had 3 channels. You didn't get any home games at all, and you only got away games if they were playing somebody big.
Yeah.
And so I learned how to love baseball on radio, and to this day I would still rather listen to baseball on the radio than watch it on television. When LSU was playing for the was it last year, they were in the College World Series. I just listened to it. I know the game was on TV, but I'd rather listen to it. And it's why Chuck Barrett, who's the voice of the Razorbacks, whom we're bringing over there, and you're going to cater. But that Chuck was always the best radio play-by-play person I've heard do baseball.
Yeah.
And it's a shame that that's the one he doesn't want to do, because it just takes up so much time. And so he only does football and basketball now. But I've never heard anyone do better play-by-play than Chuck Barrett.
No, I thought Paul Eels was pretty much the epitome, but Chuck. Yeah, Paul Eels had that great attraction to himself.
Yes,
but Chuck Barrett really does well.
Yeah, Paul Eels was a classic play-by-play guy.
Yeah,
you could tell he cut his teeth doing that.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he was the sports director of Channel 7, and but he was. Oh my! I'll never forget. That was one of his big sayings, but. But when Chuck took it over, I kind of felt sorry for Chuck. Now, Chuck was a friend and is a friend, and I felt sorry for him, because you're stepping in behind a legend in Paul Eels. And Paul Eels didn't just retire one day. He died tragically, horribly.
Still in the hearts and minds.
Right. And so, Chuck had to follow that up. And I was like, but Chuck has done real well. He's done real well at that. And I'm excited. Again, for those of you who didn't know, we're going to have Chuck Barrett here in town June 4th. And it's going to be called Calling the Hog, Stories from the Booth, with Chuck and Rex Nelson. And Chuck's going to just talk about some of the stuff that's going on behind the scenes of Razorback football, baseball, basketball. And I think it's going to be a great night. We have tables available. And again, it's going to be catered. Our friends at Madhouse 101 are going to cater the event, and I think that's going to be awesome. We kind of finalized the menu, and
is it going to be at Madhouse?
What's going to be inside the first financial music hall?
Okay,
because it's just too big to hold inside Madhouse. And I learned a lesson over that last debate. Is just, but when we signed up with him to do that debate there, it was 8 months before we actually did the debate. Mm-hmm. We didn't even know how many people would be on the ballot. We could have one race, we could have 10 races. We didn't know. We didn't know, would there be 6 Republicans running for one seat and 3 Democrats running for that same seat, and we got to debate all those people. We didn't know. Mm-hmm. So when we scheduled it there, well, then I figured out pretty quick we had to make that a ticketed event, because if we didn't, we had one candidate who said, well, I've got about 100 supporters I'm going to bring in. I'm like, hold on, that place only hold like 250 with 215?
I got 100. I can put in 250. 15, easy. It's not all sitting down.
Right.
It's about 176 seats, I think.
We ended up that night collecting 181 tickets.
Oh, wow.
And everybody had a place to sit. So
Yeah. It was full.
It was definitely full.
Yeah.
But, we just had, when one guy says, I'm bringing 100 and something, I'm like, hold on a minute. So we knew we had to make that a ticketed event. And I caught a lot of hell for that. People are, oh, there they go. Just certain people get to go and certain people get to be a part of it. Well, yeah, sorry. Not sorry. I mean, it was a byproduct of what we had to do. Now, like I said, the one we're going to put on in the fall, we know we're going to have to make it bigger. And unfortunately, that one can't be free.
Oh, well, no.
Yeah.
That's a lot of expensive.
And then, my other thing is what I don't need is I don't need 500 members of, NRA members showing up to shout down the Democratic candidate, or 500 members of BLM to show up to shout down Tom Cotton. I don't need that.
Yeah.
What I want to give them an opportunity to really get out and have a true debate, Lincoln Douglas style, debate. Be asked questions, have to give answers right there on the spot, and not make the crowd part of the scene. Now, I'm not going to do it because I'm saying it here. I'm not going to do it. Boy, I was tempted. There's a Donald Trump impersonator. Have you seen this guy?
Well, I've seen several of them. Which one is it?
Not just by voice. This guy looks like Donald Trump.
Okay.
He walks like him. The only difference is he may be a tad bit heavier, and he's obviously a little shorter. But man, he walks into rooms and people fall out.
Is he a white guy?
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's an Asian guy that's doing him now.
Yeah, I know.
Really,
we've talked about him.
He's really
he's good.
He's good.
As far as impersonating the voice. But this guy impersonates him 100% all the way around.
Okay.
And I thought, it would be just for a warm-up act, have this guy come in first.
Have you contacted or
I'm not going
reached
to.
out? You're not going to?
No, I'm not going to.
It'd be too divisive, you think?
No, it's a serious event.
Okay, I got you.
And this guy is going to be.
Well, it could be serious after that.
It could be, but I was really tempted because from what I could tell, he wouldn't be. Look, when you're already in for like $20,000, and it's going to cost you to put something on. What's another $3,000?
What's that guy come for $3,000?
We may have an after party at Madhouse on the stage.
That would be
Somebody
fun.
turned 60 that night.
Somebody has to.
Somebody turned 60.
Oh, you?
Yeah. I was going to say, that's your birthday. I remember you telling me that.
Maybe I'll fly in Trump.
Yeah.
Hey, I'll reach out to the guy. I will.
That would be great.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
But I'm telling you, when this guy walks
Might
in the
offend me.
rooms, there's people like, oh my God, because he comes in with Secret Service detail.
Oh, wow.
Or people who appear to be, and they're like, oh my, and people just freaking out. And of course, the Secret Service people keep you far enough back. You don't get close enough
to see him
to see that it's really not him. But man, I mean, he walked into this one event. It was a corporate event, and they were playing YMCA, and he did the Trump. That little dance he did, and man, I mean, he had it down. And then of course the voice. He's great with the voice as well. If I was going to get somebody for voice, I'd get Shane Gillis. That guy.
Yeah, he does it well.
Man, I wonder what it would cost us to get Shane Gillis into town.
$100,000.
It'd have to be. It would almost have to be. I'd love to have him and Rogan and Joey Diaz. Although Joey Diaz is one of those guys that it is an 18 and over only show. Let me tell you something, Joe Rogan. Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
I don't need a bunch of friends. I need 3 mother. That's what I need. I take up a whole city. You give me 3 mother, and I take it all over. That guy.
Horrible.
But Joey, he was a made guy.
Yeah.
And it wasn't Italian mafia because obviously he's not Sicilian, but he was in some kind of mafia. He was a made guy. He did time, in the joint, and he's like, there was this one time I was trying to get my life straight, and I got a job at this all-night gas station. He said, and I was over there one night, and this guy pulls up. He don't have any money. He said, so he gave me a hit off his blow. He said, I thought, you know what? It's like $350 in that cash register, so I just robbed the guy and left. If you ever get the chance to see Joey Diaz, take it. I mean, again, you'll have to get your ears blessed afterwards, but Joey's great. And, Rogan, of course, is funny. I don't think Rogan is half as funny as Joey Diaz, but
Rogan's got the following, though.
Man.
Gosh almighty.
Well, you know, so when Rush Limbaugh died, if you remember, we were right in the middle of that snowpocalypse. And we were living in a hotel because our house was destroyed. And I'm sitting in that hotel and I find out Rush has passed. And I knew Rush. Rush was a friend. And, of course, we were both in the radio business, and we knew the same people. And I had dinner with Rush Limbaugh. And again, I always told people, I said, you don't have to like us, Paul. Love him or hate him. I don't care. I said, my thing is, in the world of radio, this guy was the pinnacle. He had more listeners per week than Paul Harvey. That tells you, you know. So Rush, so when Rush died, a lot of us wondered who picks up the mantle. You know, who takes off now? I mean, there were years where you thought it would be Hannity, but again, Hannity is an Irish Catholic Yankee. It just doesn't play that well in the South. And I told Sean Hannity that one time. I was like, Sean, look, you're an Irish Catholic Yankee. And he's like, did you forget I spent all those years in Atlanta? I said, yeah, I ain't forgot. I said, neither have they. You know, it's just, it's not the same, Sean. You know, so there was, you know, talk of this guy or that guy or whatever, but actually it wasn't. No one filled his role in radio. What happened was Joe Rogan, who is not conservative. You know, Joe will tell you right off the bat, you know, I'm a liberal. He's not. He believes too many things that would get him kicked out of being quote unquote called liberal. But that's where that audience went. I mean, you know, you're talking about 100 million people watching an episode of Joe Rogan.
That's unbelievable.
And that's, yeah, I mean, even Rush at his height, I think, was 38 million people.
Yeah,
and, you know, 39 maybe. But, you know, basically 2.5 times that. Watch one episode of Joe Rogan.
And it devalues all of the broadcast media. When that many people are watching what he's saying, you've got to embrace or try to get closer to the truth.
Well, so, okay, right before the election, he had Donald Trump on. Joe Rogan did. That episode, I think 130 million people have watched. That same week, CNN did an interview with Kamala Harris. 78,000. 78,000 people. There's your difference. You want to know the difference in that election? There was your difference.
Well, Gen Z doesn't watch TV.
No. I'm Gen X.
A lot of X don't watch
I don't
TV.
watch a lot of TV.
And won't listen to the radio much anymore either.
I don't.
You know, their playlist. Or
I listen to like Razorback baseball games. But even, you know, even like the sports guy out of LA, he's a shrimpy little guy. Middle of the day, he's on the Camden station. Colin Cowherd.
Yeah.
So Colin Cowherd, I used to listen to a little bit. I never really liked him. One, he's got his lips so firmly pressed to the ass of the quarterback for the Bills, Josh Allen, who's a fabulous quarterback, and his story's great, but let's try to be a little more objective here. And then there's the everything LA centric, you know, because that's where he's at. He's in LA, and so. But back during COVID and all, when he was one of the voices who was out there just shaming people, you know, if you're not staying home, you're killing people. If you're not masking up, you're killing people. So masks,
take the jab.
Yeah, and then of course with the whole injection, the masks weren't doing squat.
Nothing.
You know,
according to the people that said wear them.
Yes, according to the people who were manufacturing them, the masks aren't going to help. They just make you feel better. You know,
it's sad. You still see people wearing masks.
I don't.
Alone in a car.
Yeah,
I know.
I never got that.
Well,
here's driving a car with a mask.
Here's what gets me. This is the one that gets me. Go to the grocery store, and you see somebody wearing a mask on their chin.
Yeah.
Help me understand that.
Right.
Now, I really do want to walk up to him and say, "Help me understand what you're doing right here. Let me take a picture. Help me understand.
Tell me what that means right there.
Help me understand what it is you're trying to accomplish here." You know, now back when masks were quote unquote mandatory, you know, we had people who were walking in the business I was working, and I mean, one guy came in and said, "If y'all are falling for that mask crap, I'm not even going to do business here," and turned around and walked out. You know, it was the law.
Yeah, it was
had to.
Mandated.
You know, it was mandated. Then we had people when we stopped wearing masks who come in with their masks and said, oh, if y'all don't wear a mask, I'm not coming in. You know?
Yeah. We saw that when we opened the rail.
Yeah.
They wouldn't come in once they said our servers didn't have to wear masks anymore. We had, the table. Remember how they you had to straighten the tables out where you had the distance between.
Yeah, 6 foot between each table.
Yeah.
Which honestly means 6 foot between that chair and the back of that chair. So you're more like 8 feet per table. And when you only have a finite amount of space, now you're down to 7 tables, and then people are pissed.
Car.
Yeah, people are pissed that what do you mean you can't seat me right now?
That was a crazy time.
Yeah.
But again, I go back to just how easily we as Americans allowed.
Yeah.
And we allowed it. We allowed the government to just shut us down, shut us off, and just tell us, you can't do that anymore.
That was a test.
I agree.
100%. I 100% agree.
100%.
I think,
that was a test.
Again, you close down churches, you close down schools, you close down restaurants, or the mom and pop restaurants.
Yeah.
You didn't close Walmart, you didn't close Target, you didn't close liquor stores. Okay. Now listen, you don't close liquor stores because you don't want a full-blown riot on your hands.
Yeah, you wanted the people to stay medicated.
That's what you would have had.
The ones that needed it.
If not, there'd have been a whole bunch of us cooking in the backyard. Say, I look like Tickle out there wiping that dope around them copper pipes.
Yeah, they put a lot of mom and pop restaurants out of business.
Totally out of business.
Yeah. Completely. They're
100% out of business. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And
the guy that had the health fitness club in New York that just wouldn't close, and they just ruined him.
Yeah.
And then again, the shaming.
Yeah, the shaming is what I'm
of not. How dare you not get the shot? How dare you? And
Yeah, Rachel Maddow.
I went on a rant last week about her, and I didn't say very many complimentary things about her, but
she don't care.
She listen. She's counting her millions. She don't care what I think. But at the same time, the book of Job says, "Be sure of this: there is a judgment." And thank God for grace and thank God for mercy, because without either, I'm doomed. Right?
Yeah.
Well, if they'd have done it out of ignorance,
that would be one thing.
They did it with full knowledge.
They did it, but they knew what they were doing.
That's the whole thing. And again, I know it's like the third week in a row I've said it. I don't like to use the term "you'll never convince me," because that says you're closed-minded, and I'm anything but. I'll just say it would be extremely difficult to convince me that wasn't planned in January, February, March of 2019. That they didn't say, "Hey, Fauci, that lab you have over in Wuhan? How y'all come along with that virus? Yeah. Let's give it a test run, and let's see what happens." I mean, because otherwise you did not have a prayer of defeating Donald Trump.
Yeah, because everything was motoring, brother.
I mean,
that was the way to beat him.
They were making
100%.
Hey, when they started making jeans in North Carolina again, when Levi started making jeans in North Carolina, I said, "Whoo! Now this economy's getting it." If they're and I have a friend, Mike Wheatley. He was a professional fisherman, and now he and his wife, they have a professional guide service. They do fishing guides during this time of year, during the spawn and all. And then in the fall, they have a ranch in Texas. They do exotic hunts. And, it's stocked, obviously, but, you pay him $12,000 and go kill you a pronghorn or whatever. And he told me, he said, "Listen, this Trump economy," he said, "man, we can't get them in and out of here fast enough." He said, "We've got waiting lists for years of people waiting to get in here for us to take them fishing." As a matter of fact, I had bought, the whole reason he took us fishing, I had bought Casey. We were just dating, so it would have been 2013. For her birthday, I bought her a full day, a guided fishing trip with Mike, because Casey loves fishing. She fished, she was an All-American in high school in bass fishing. And so I get her an all day to go fishing with Mike. And every time I would call him, he'd say, "Brother, you're going to have to call me earlier next year." I'm like, "Okay." So I'd call him and he'd say, "No, man, my calendar's full for this year," and we did that for several years, and then finally we finally got to go, and but he's like, "That Trump economy, man." We said, "We're ginning. We can't get people in and out fast." There was no way you were going to beat him without some kind of pandemic or something, And I've always said I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I am a conspiracy hearist. I'll listen to it. I'll listen to a conspiracy because I just want to hear, there may be a nugget of truth in there somewhere. But one of the big ones that jumped up at me was all you had to do was go back every 4 years during a presidential election and look at whatever that latest pandemic was that came out that year. From the bird flu to the swine flu to the gerbil flu to the whatever this and that. And
plus, he got 20 million more votes than Obama.
Yeah. But
come on, man.
The question is, were all those different flus on those election years, were those a test run just to see? If we how do we make that, how do we do that again but make it a little more effective?
And we've talked about this too, but my thought is, were they willing to kill millions of people worldwide? And obviously the answer was yes.
Well,
if it was contrived.
Even negligible, even if they were just negligent in it, they didn't think it would do that. Maybe they thought it would just shut down. And they all said, we're going to, flatten the curve. We're going to, shelter in place, stay home 2 weeks. 2 weeks. It'll be over for the most part. 2 weeks. No one wanted to use the term herd immunity. No one wanted to use that.
Who is they?
That's what he asked me last week. Well, I mean, it's like I told him last week. I said the people who control the swamp, and whether that's the Rothschilds or the or whomever,
WHO,
Rockefellers,
the Rockefellers, right? I don't know if that's them. Having known very closely extremely wealthy people. I'm not talking about rich. I'm talking about wealthy. They don't ever worry about their money. Now, let me tell you what they don't worry about. Their money. They can't spend it all. You can't tax it all. They have money from so many directions coming through so many pipelines. You can never get to them all. They don't, and again, I know of a very, very, very wealthy man intimately, and it's like a father figure to me. And let me just tell you, he would even tell me, he said, I don't care what the tax rate goes to. He said, I'll be worth just as much if the tax rate goes to 73% like it was in the 80s, and then before Reagan took office. He said, I'll be just fine, and he said, now America won't be, but I'll be fine. So I don't know that the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers even really care that much. I think it had to be the military-industrial complex is definitely involved there. I don't know to what level. Is it BlackRock? Is it Vanguard? I
think it's the guys like we talked about on those boards or on the church committee that they just want power. Power. I say church committee on any organization where they're where they want to be in charge, and that's the other thing is, of course, then we lost our freaking mind and just started giving everyone money. and let's make sure that more than once.
every death was COVID related. I'll never forget the guy who jumped off the building and landed on the ground. They tested him, he was COVID positive.
Right.
So the hospital automatically got a check for that one.
They can come in here. Y'all come on in. Y'all ain't bothering us. They can sit in here. Y'all not bothering us.
There was no rhyme or reason to any of it. I got the bill after my dad passed from COVID. 11 days in the hospital, $1.83 million, and I owed zero.
Yeah, because he had COVID.
Wow.
And so how do you work a balance sheet with that now?
Yeah.
You got this bill for $1.83 million. Did the government just pay them that? How did that work?
Yeah.
I don't. No one can answer those questions.
Nope. Exactly.
And now you have hospitals who are hurting. Hospitals are hurting because they took on a lot of money during those COVID.
Sure did.
That COVID time, they were getting that money.
Yeah.
And
it's the rural hospitals.
The rural hospitals especially, and and now they bought equipment, they bought different things, and now that money's dried up. And then the one big beautiful bill's not a friend to rural hospitals.
Yep.
And So I don't know. I don't know what the answer is. I know here locally we made what I felt like was a good decision.
I agree with that.
And funding our own hospitals.
We got to have a hospital in our community. We have to.
You have to.
Nobody's going to move here and raise a family without a hospital here.
Sure. Well, my biggest thing was always, Murphy USA is never, ever going to attract a 20-something-year-old up-and-coming executive if his wife is pregnant and she has to go to Texarkana to have a baby. Never going to happen. Not when those same people are being recruited by ConocoPhillips in Tulsa and, Exxon in Beaumont, and they can live in these metropolitan areas. They're not going to come here. You already have the uphill climb of being in rural Arkansas.
Yeah. Exxon built a city on I-45.
Yeah, I mean, the Exxon refinery. I was telling Jax the other day. I said the Exxon refinery in Baytown has its own zip code. It's that big.
Yeah, and their corporate headquarters is immense.
Yes, you get out, and of course I used to work at that Exxon refinery, and we'd get on those little boats. They'd take us out to these platforms because I was doing machine repair for vending machines, and so let me tell you, those guys out there on that platform, they want that sandwich machine working, they want that coffee machine working, so you got that call and they'd run you out there on a boat, and man, you talk about rough. Even though it's just in the bay, it would still be rough, but get out there and place is massive, and the guys that would work out there, they'd say, oh yeah, man, this was like in the early 90s. He's like, oh yeah, I worked about 80 something hours this week, and
3,000.
He's gonna bring home $3,000 this week, and just stupid amounts of money, and they'd say, hey, while I'm young enough to do it, I'm going to do it. And some of those guys were really smart. They took that money and they put it away, and most of them sent it home for their mama to run their bank account for them.
But you talk about hospital, they're not going to recruit. Well, Dean can't have a restaurant if we don't have a hospital, because people ain't going to be here.
That's right. That's right.
It's like the
only ones who are going to stay, and that's what I'll get back to. We were talking last week with Lance Greer. When you lose those amenities, like a hospital, or Murphy Arts District, or the Arts Center, or any of the other amenities that we offer, when you lose those things, the only people who are going to stay are going to be the people who either can't afford or you don't want as customers coming over. There gets to be a tipping point there where you don't want to be so exclusive that no one comes. It's like the hot girl who didn't get a date to prom because everyone was scared to ask her. So on prom night she's home by herself. Well, it's the same kind of thing with you've got to have a price point that makes you desirable, but yet affordable.
Not unreachable.
Yeah, but not unreachable. And that's why
you got to attract the people, and it's a big puzzle that has to be put together. We had the naysayers on everything we've done in the past 30 years.
Yes.
Well, we don't need that place down there. We need more jobs.
Yeah, that was the energy plant out there on the highway. We don't need a gas-fired energy plant. What we need is some jobs. Well, let me just tell you, when I moved here,
MAD.
Or when we built MAD. Yeah. How many employees does MAD have, by the way? I mean, you go over there for an event, you find out real quick they're cutting checks to a lot of people.
Yeah, they have a lot of people on staff, but I don't know. I'd have to ask Pam that to be exact.
Yeah, I mean,
I know a bunch. I know all of them actually, but they have a lot of security part time.
You have a lot of employees over there when there's an event.
We employ between both restaurants 40, 45.
Yeah.
See, I mean that's a lot.
Yeah,
that's a lot.
It's a lot of tax base too.
It is a lot of tax base, and those people who, like I said, they work security or they work the door or whatever they're doing during an event. Well, that's side money for them. Yeah. Okay, now they're not making a car note with that money, but that's their money to go then to Madhouse and eat, or that's their money to go to Off the Rail. It's it, and all those things go in together. And I got pulled aside yesterday by an elected official here in the county who said, "I appreciate what you said."
Was there a butt coming?
There is. He said, I appreciate what you said when there was, you were talking about, you got a kid getting a law degree, didn't cost you anything. One has a master's, not costing you anything. One getting a bachelor's, and where else can you go and, see, Rascal Flatts and Alan Jackson and Toby Keith and, and then this, and you got Mystic. And he said, I really appreciate all that. He said, but you said that people were too negative, and you just not like people to have an opinion. I said, no, I think everybody should have an opinion.
As long as it agrees with me.
I don't care if it agrees with me.
No,
but if everything you ever have to say is negative, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to listen to you. And he said, what are some people thought you was talking about me? And I said, if the shoe fits,
wear it.
If the shoe fits, wear it.
If you're always negative, then I was talking to you.
And I said, I wasn't talking about anyone in particular. So that part in your podcast where you said, well, he just walked by right there. He said, that wasn't me. I said, that was you. Yeah, that was you. And he said, well, I don't think I'm that negative. I said, and I just flipped open screenshots of stuff he said on my posts or South Arkansas Now posts. And I said, does that sound like someone who is elected by the people of the area should sound? It's like you have nothing good to say. And I realize that not everything is perfect. It's not a utopia. Mm-hmm. I said, but dude, you're not telling me anything about being part of the solution. You're just telling everybody what the problem is. And I said, that's where I have a problem. I said, you're my friend, and you will always be my friend. And that's just not going to change. I said, but you're negative. And the fact of the matter is when you get like that, if you haven't noticed, even when like we're hanging out and you do that, I walk off because I'm sick of hearing it. I said, tell me some solutions. And, he's scratched his face a little bit. And he said, well, I wish you'd have just told me. I wouldn't have to find out by watching your podcast. I said, okay, well, maybe I should have handled it a little differently. But, yeah, it was you. You were the one who walked by. And I was like, there goes one now.
And I didn't turn around and see who it was.
I'll tell you later. But anyway, so Dean, man, thank you so much.
Thank you. I've enjoyed it.
I've enjoyed you coming over. And again, don't forget, Off the Rail, if you've not had breakfast there, 100% has my full endorsement. You will not be disappointed. As a matter of fact, I don't know how you could be. And it's not just the class. Yes, there are the classics. There's biscuits and gravy, and there's pancakes and eggs and sausage and bacon. But like the sweet potato pancakes, I saw the other day y'all had eggs Benedict.
We do. We have shrimp Benedict, eggs Benedict.
Yeah, eggs Benedict. Now, one thing I've never done is I've never eaten lunch there.
Serve a lot of lunch. We do a lot of catering too.
I was there the other day having a meeting with a guy. We met over there about 10:30. And some guys come in and they ordered burgers. And I was telling my wife, I said, my God, I'm going to tell you something. Those burgers smell good when they walk by the table with them. I'm like,
And if you want to walk downtown with your little dog, you can come eat outside.
You can.
Yeah.
We have somebody show up with a parrot.
I was there.
Really?
I was there the day that
I actually had somebody. One day somebody showed up with a monkey.
No, I wasn't there that day.
Yeah. I walked by and I went, oh my!
Because you know what happened?
Hey, on her shoulder. I'm not.
A little minky.
I forgot the name of the monkey, but the monkey was on the shoulder, and
was it on a leash?
Yes.
Yeah.
And I walked by and I looked and I went,
is that a monkey?
That's a monkey.
Is that a monkey or whatever?
Yeah.
You remember Sindel?
No.
You remember Sindel Thompson that worked for us? Sindel Thompson.
Tall girl.
Yeah.
Pretty lady.
Yeah, and you remember she went to Mexico on vacation, and then she's back for a week, and she's like, oh yeah, and I got bit by a monkey. I'm like, wait a minute.
You failed to mention that
you've been back a week, and you just now tell us you got bit by a monkey? And she's like, yeah, right on the nose.
You may have the monkey fever.
They made a movie about that.
Sandy.
So
we have gotten in so much trouble over monkeys over the years.
Yeah, we have.
And we're off the air.
Yeah.
Post podcast, we may discuss it.
I'll tell you some of them, yeah. I try not to think like that anymore.
Hopefully we've grown up some since then.
Baby, I try to act like I'm saved. I act like I know the Lord. I'm just saying. So, yeah, hopefully we've grown up a little bit.
Dean, thank you so much. Thank you for providing us a place. And
thank you.
Hey, listen, I must say, and we let it go the whole time you were here. you married out of your league.
Oh, my gosh.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
You're batting out of your. Yeah,
I truly believe that. There's no doubt.
Well, we both did. All three of us did.
Yeah, all of us did. That's for sure.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
thanks for coming.
Well, Angel, appreciate it.
yeah, and before we go, you've got talent lined up coming up. I know you've always got.
Oh yeah, I should have had the list, but I don't have the list. I'll have to shoot it to you.
Yeah, but we try to bring it up every week. We try to talk about what you have and don't have.
This week we don't. I think next week we've got somebody on the stage. But if you go to Madhouse or 101 on my website, or you can go
to your Facebook page,
or Facebook page, or go to Mad. Murphy Art District, and look at their website. That's probably the best one to look at, because you can look at their talent coming in the music hall. Plus, you can see what's in the restaurant too.
Yeah,
they post both. And if we have and if you go to Off the Rail, we keep a QR code with all the talent on the tables.
Yeah. So here a couple weeks ago, I'm sitting in Off the Rail, and they have it's dad rock. They're going to have your dad's music, right? And it's Nickelback and Three Doors Down, and
that's 90s.
And I'm like, I was thinking Guns N' Roses. I was thinking, I'm thinking, like some Motley Crue, or some AC/DC, and so I took a picture of it and I said that on Facebook. I said, they're gonna have dad rock, and it's Nickelback, and
So if I thought dad, I would have thought Doobie Brothers, America,
exactly.
Jim Croce, Eagles,
James Taylor,
James Taylor.
So I post that. Well, wouldn't you know, my good friend Mike Poor, his son-in-law, says no, AC/DC and Guns N' Roses, that's called grandpa rock.
Ooh,
and I was like, David, you realize no one likes you, and you have no friends.
Yeah.
But they've always got they always have talent lined up, and so as he mentioned, you can go to eldomad.com. Probably the best way to do it. That's the website for the Murphy Arts District. eldomad.com. Y'all never charge a cover for those.
No, everything you just come and eat.
Yeah. And as long as that guy on the stage knows his role, and that is your background. So we did come in one night, and a group of us came in to eat, and we showed up a little later, and y'all were gracious and let us in. But the guy's on stage, and he was getting a little perturbed that no one's answering him when he asks questions, or no one's singing along. And I'm just thinking to myself,
we're not in a club,
dude. You're the background.
We're in the restaurant.
We're not here for you.
Know your role.
Know your role. That's right. Stay in your lane.
I tell you what's been very successful the last couple of times. My buddy Henry Frisbee.
Oh God.
Karaoke.
Well, Henry is
a legend.
Hoot. Yes,
he is a legend. He fills the restaurant up every time he comes, and he's a friend. And we haven't coordinated our next outing, but
I've never been with that. I need to.
Oh, it's hilarious. He's a showstopper.
I've not been to one there, but. Henry sometimes will go live during those shows. He'll go Facebook Live or TikTok Live, and man, it's a ride.
It's a karaoke. I mean,
it's
people
karaoke,
get up and sing.
Yeah, but it's half karaoke and half Henry. But it's a lot of entertainment.
Yeah,
it's a party.
He's crazy.
He's
my daughter's age.
And no, because he's older than I am, and I'm older than all your kids.
He went to school with Amy. He's older than Amy? He's older than you?
I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure. But either way, Henry's a riot. He's fun and he's funny. And, that's what it takes for one of those events for karaoke.
Yeah.
You got to get people loosened up.
Oh, yeah.
Whether it's by alcohol or not, you got to get them loosened up enough to get up on stage.
Yeah. Hypnotize them or something.
Something like that. But again, Dean, thank you so much for being with us.
Appreciate it.
Madhouse 101, Off the Rail. Nothing like eating Arkansas chocolate gravy and biscuits in a rail car built in 1883. Okay, so come by and check it out. Again, if you've never been there, you will not be disappointed. I promise you. And if you are disappointed, you come see me and I'll fix it. Okay, I'll give you your money back if you're that disappointed. So again, thank you for being here. That's going to wrap it up for us. We hope you have a great weekend. This has been Off the Back Porch. God bless.
With a history of being the voices you trust, this is Off the Back Porch.